Hello and welcome to an awful lot of running, a Doctor Who podcast.
Woo!
Yes, I am Jack, one party hosting team, and joining me, as ever, my dungeon daddy, my running, kicking, and screaming Who girl. It's the Donna Noble to my 10th Doctor. It's Robin Fowle.
Oh, the title is staying, is it? I'm not complaining to Dungeon Daddy, but
Uh,
yes, I am indeed kicking and screaming, which is very appropriate when it comes to Donna Noble. But no, I lie actually, I lie because I have been so excited for this season. I think it's just registering in my voice, just like, whoo, yes, I'm raring to go.
yeah, I think
Oh,
let's not even do like the whole usual song and dance and pretense about it. We're looking at our fourth retrospective. We're doing series four of New Who, starting with Time Crash. Just to throw you all, yes, we're covering Time Crash, and we're going all the way up to the end of the Tennant specials as well. So we are covering up to End of Time Part Two, which means Robin, we are covering episodes from
mm.
2007 all the way until 2010 in this episode.
Oh, Jack, you almost scared me there. I thought this was going to be a lot of hard work for Star to have to edit or something.
Yeah, imagine that.
Hi, editing star here, just to say, you sick son of a bitch. The pair of you sitting me through here for 3 hours! 3 hours! I say this like I didn't edit the D&D things, which are way longer, but like, 3 hours! Anyway, carry on. Enjoy your pod.
So look, we're going to rip the band-aid off straight away with these retrospectives, because especially with this one, because we're basically reviewing 19 and a bit episodes of Doctor Who.
Oh,
Because
bloody
Time
hell, it
Crash,
is. Yeah.
um, we're not going to spend a lot of time on each episode, which is where, I think, once we've covered this series, will mean that we'll start dipping into episodes and cover them in a more in-depth way, like we do with new Doctor Who when it comes out, or our classic Who reviews.
Mm,
So look forward to that, because I mean, my goodness, I think I could fill a whole 2-hour podcast talking about something like Midnight, for example. But
damn
we
straight.
can't do that because we've got so many to get through, and we want to keep this at a reasonable level, not only for our sanity but for stars as well. So let's
3 hours and 4 psychiatrists. No, wait, hang on, that's Series 5 reference. We'll come back to that next retrospective. Carry on.
Bless her, yes.
without further ado, let's get into things here. Before we start reviewing episodes, Robin, I want to talk to you
Mm,
about, because obviously this is a series that we saw, much like the rest of New Who as well, we saw for the first time going out live, and this is very much sort of like the peak of Doctor Who sort of certainly popularity, I would say, was
oh,
this series,
definitely.
you know.
I think we were definitely peaking since David Tennant. Like we had Christopher Eccleston bring back Doctor Who for a brand new audience, and that was very exciting. And just bringing back old fans and introducing new fans was just marvelous, fantastic, as a certain director and writer would say. And as soon as David Tennant was introduced, I think for a lot of people, a lot of friends, a lot of casual fans, as well as mega fans, would all agree that that's when they jumped on with Doctor Who. And oh my God, this feels like the culmination of the last couple of seasons of his work, of him building up his character, and just it's just some of the best writing, some of
Yeah,
the greatness of the fact that we love Martha. Martha is absolutely wonderful, and the way she was treated in season three was just absolutely abysmal. Which is why to have season four focus on a companion who's not a love interest, who is more of a friend to just bounce off, and it's just that is such a breath of fresh air, especially when, let's face it, having someone from a comedy background, from a comedic background, end up with some of the darkest episodes and show their acting chops. My God, like it really.
I think that's the thing with Doctor Who as well. It consistently proves that just because they're a comedic actor or a comedian in any sense doesn't mean they can't bring the fucking like BAFTA winning performances to the show. You
Oh,
know?
agreed. And I think that's what really is clever about having Catherine Tate as a companion, because us going into it, like, correct me if I was wrong, like, did you watch the Catherine Tate show growing up?
I saw bits of it, but
Mm,
I knew her more as like a personality, and then obviously uh she came into the Runaway Bride, and I was like, oh yeah, she, Donna, I actually really like her.
yeah,
People didn't
same.
like her, people didn't, for what have you. And then I remember the news coming out that she was going to be the companion in this series, and sort of being like, no, that's not true. That's not going to happen. And then seeing a trailer at the end of Voyage of the Damned, being like, oh yeah, oh okay, yeah, she is coming back. There you go. Who knew?
Mm. And were you excited for her? Were you?
Yeah, it was by then. By that point, actually, it was really, And I'm thinking back on it, it's really strange. 'Cause I think going into series 4, we knew it was going to be Russell's last series as showrunner.
Mm,
We knew Moff was going to be taking over. Certainly by series 4's airing, certainly by the end of it, I think we knew David was going to be going as well.
mm,
And I remember, very vivid memory actually, is I remember going to college because I finished secondary school and started sixth on college. I remember walking in and going into one of the canteens there and just before college probably started, and talking to a couple of mates, and my other friend who was there, who was a big Doctor Who fan like me, said, "Oh, by the way, have you heard? Billy Piper's coming back." And I went, "What? Are you?" And then this is before the times of like smartphones and things like that. This
mm.
makes me feel really old. So I had to wait for like my free period to go in the library and then go onto the official Doctor Who website and go, "Oh shit, yeah, Billy Piper is coming back."
Oh, you had it spoiled then. You didn't have like the nice reveal at the end of
Well, no, I knew she was coming back, but
Okay,
didn't
okay.
know in what, didn't know in what capacity, So that, we'll get onto it in a bit, but that
Sure,
twist
sure.
at the end of Partners in Crime was like, oh, shit, oh.
Yes, just that still is so great. Because I remembered coming back for the finale. I forgot about that little cameo in episode 1, so we'll cover that when we get to it. But
Okay, well, I tell you what,
yeah,
let's
yeah,
cut the
come on.
bullshit. Robin, shut the fuck up. We're talking about Doctor Who now, okay? Come on.
Oh,
Okay, so
okay.
first things first, where we left things off last year when we did a series 3 retrospective, the Titanic came through the TARDIS, the Doctor had just left off Martha, and we were being thought we were leading into Voyage of the Damned, the Christmas special. But no,
Mm,
Robin, you were wrong. It actually leads into Time Crash, written by Stephen Moffat, directed by Graham Harper, featuring the Fifth Doctor as portrayed by Peter Davison. Now, I cannot tell you, like at the peak of my sort of like teenage and nerdy years, like
hmm.
how fucking just like hyped I was when I heard this was happening.
I can
I
imagine
was
because you
just,
'cause you
oh
got introduced to Doctor Who through them, didn't you? Through Peter Davison.
yeah, pretty much. It was as well. Whilst I was watching Eccleston, I was watching Davison on UKTV Gold as well, and then Baker into McCoy. So it was like this was. I don't know. I don't know how else to describe it. Other than like this was my proto Day of the Doctor of having,
Mm,
the two, at that time my Doctor, the 10th Doctor, meet one of my favorite Doctors again like that, who was really special to me. So it was really, really lovely. And like it's a little 8-minute mini episode, isn't it, for children in need, which is, yeah, it's very sweet, isn't it?
it's great. I don't think it talks down to audiences. It doesn't do anything that's kind of eye-rolling. It does exactly what it needs to do in terms of like just having two doctors share the same room and have a great time. And
Yeah.
the fact that just the fact that one of them just happens to go on to marry their daughter later on down the
Yeah.
line.
Isn't it so funny? Like, this is where they meet. And then, obviously, in the series we're about to cover, David's then going to meet Georgia, who's Peter's daughter.
Yes.
And then we now come into, like, the dynasty of the Tennants, the Davison Tennants, So,
Also, I just realized I have to now explain that, of course, I mean Peter Davison's daughter and not David Tennant's daughter from the doctor's daughter and
yes.
Peter
Yeah.
Davison marrying
No.
her, because that
It's
would be a
all.
whole other can of worms.
Say it with me, Robin, as they say in this, wibbly wobbly.
Wobbly, timey-wimey.
There you go. There it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do think if I'm going to critique it on a certain level, which I
Okay.
feel bad, 'cause it's just a bit of fun, really is. I do think at points you get the feeling that rather than the 10th Doctor speaking maybe what he thinks, it's very much he's being used as a body to say what Moffat and what Tennant definitely feel. Because it's very much, it feels sort of like, and like the 80s Who fan who's grown up and is now writing the show is getting to say, this is what I loved about you, and now this is what I brought into it. So it's, and I can't be cynical about that really. I think it's a bit of fun. I enjoy it for what it is. Like, I just rewatched it today with just a massive smile on my face. And I just like, oh, like, I can't, I've heard other people slate it, but I just can't do
Really?
that myself. Yeah, but it's
No.
a bit of fun. It's for children in need. It's a look, as multi-doctor specials go, is it very interesting? No, it's only 8 minutes. So yeah, I
Hey.
I look. Go on, you say before I give my score.
No. All I was going to say, I think it's fun. It's doing something for children in need, which is a good cause and the like. I think there's some fun lines which do border on a bit of fan wank, but it's also like, well, you're having two doctors in the same room. Plus, we do get a mixture of both new Doctor Who score and classic Doctor Who score with
Yeah,
that
I love
piano,
that
which,
so much. Yeah, I've actually seen someone on YouTube do I remember way back in the day, they did a cut of Time Crash, but from Five's perspective. So like cut from
what?
classic Who into Time Crash and then back to like, so they made it work like that. It was really, really
Yeah.
cool.
Oh, that sounds really good.
What I will say as well, I think it's got one of the best jokes in Doctor Who.
Oh,
In that, when the fifth Doctor says, about, the tenth Doctor's like, oh, I'm the Master, he showed up again. And the fifth Doctor goes, oh, does he still have that rubbish beard?
yeah.
No beard this time. Well, a wife. Which I only put that together like a year or so ago, because when I
Mm.
was younger, when I first saw it, I wouldn't have understood the terminology for that. But now I'm just like, oh, Moff, you snuck that with him, didn't you? Children in need, like, come on.
Oh no, there's some little funny bants with this, and now the question is, because this is something made for charity, can we fairly
Yeah,
like
it's a
give
6 out
this?
of 10.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Six
Oh
out of
wow.
10. It's a bit of fun. It's nice. 6 out of 10 is not what I'd say is a bad mark. There's still redeemable
No.
qualities to it. It's not it's not Day of the Doctor, is it? It's not,
No.
wow,
No.
it's a bit of fun. It's for children in need. They're the TARDIS set for a day and a half, and that was it.
And when we say 6 out of 10 as well, because actually I think I agree with you. Like if I think 7 out of 10 is kind of like a Doctor Who average, then a 6 out of 10, I think is fair for an episode which is just 8 minutes, doesn't rely on special effects or monsters or anything. And I think it's just fair to let those who are either joining us for the first time know, or just curious about our weighting system, just know that a 6 is not a bad score. That's like above average, which this is, but that doesn't mean it's not a good fun laugh at the same time.
Okay, next up is Voyage of the Damned, written by Russell T Davies, directed by James Strong. Originally went out on the 25th of December 2007. God, I feel so old.
No.
And Robin, we're going to fall out about this one.
Oh, we are. I've been
We're
dreading
going to
this
fall
one.
out about this one. Okay, because
Mhm.
listeners will know that this is Robin's most hated Christmas special.
It
Am I
really
right?
is. I really cannot stand this episode.
This is in a world where Dr. Willy of the Wardrobe and Joy to the World now exist. Like, come on, man. Come on.
No, because I'd rather watch Joy to the World than this because this is just sad and depressing. Like, this is Doctor Who. Who's
Yes,
bright?
it's Christmas. You're supposed to be sad. You're supposed to be depressed. You're supposed to cry at people dying left, right, and center.
Ow!
You're supposed to cry at Kylie Minogue dying and becoming part of the universe.
No, no, because she was a great companion. She should have come back. I know she.
No, because
Ah,
that's the thing. Because that's the thing. She would have stayed. She would have stayed on forever. But how the fuck are they supposed to look, Robin? When they got a budget of 10p and a shoestring, how can they fucking how? Go on, Robin. Get your hand at your ass. Get your face out your phone. How are they going to afford
I,
Carly on a week-to-week basis? You know,
okay. Well, look, clearly they just have to sell her the rights to the Daleks, right? You know, everyone would be happy with that. Yeah,
mate, come
yeah.
on. It's got Bala Cavalata in it.
I look, since we watching
Wilfred
it,
Mott makes
hey,
his first appearance.
Wilf is amazing. Everything that Wilf touches is gold. We can all agree on that.
There you go. There you
And
go.
and you know what? Upon rewatching it with my fiance, who's never seen it before, you know, I've come back with it with fresh eyes. I can appreciate a lot of its set design, its
And I
costume
still think
design.
it's a piece of shit.
Well, I was going to let you down, Jack, but yes, okay. The sets, the costumes, they're all wonderful. They really do invoke this Titanic feel, but with like little set dressings of, okay, something's not quite right. This is clearly sci-fi. And they do have a bunch of really likable characters. And actually a big cast of actors in this. Like some of them I did not know, like shit, the name forgets me right now, but it's like the guy who has to pilot the ship when he's like injured. Like
Oh
he
yeah, Russell Tovey shows up in this.
yeah,
Get ready for he'll be back.
yeah, that's
He'll
true.
be back.
And it's like I've gone back to this and be like, okay, you know, I was quite harsh with some things. Like this is not an awful Doctor Who episode. This isn't like absolute trash. But at the same time, it's Christmas Day, and I'm watching an episode about thousands of people dying to the Titanic. And this is a disaster episode. Like, oh, whose bright idea was this to see all these characters that you like constantly die one by one to this disaster? Like that doesn't fill me with Christmas joy. It's not like it's Die Hard where it's printed on the poster that this is going to be like him
Mate,
versus Hans Gruber.
it is literally called Voyage of the Damned.
No, but like if this episode wasn't a Christmas episode, I'd be far more forgiving. But the fact that it's Christmas is what just leaves a bad taste in my mouth every single time.
No, mate, it's not. It's I understand that and I respect it. I think Russell's like inspiration was the Poseidon adventure, isn't it?
It's got heavy tones of that, yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's so much great about it. I think the Heavenly Hosts, their design is great. You know, like another angel, villain as well, but for robots. I think they're great. I think Bala Cavalata are great. I think there's a great cast of characters. I think it's really interesting that it's is it Ratigan? I can't remember. I think it's Ratigan is the horrible character who survives at the end there, because it's like Russell, if I remember the Confidential way back in the day, he was like, oh well, yes, unfortunately sometimes that is just what happens, isn't it? Rixton Slade,
That's it, yeah. No, and
but yeah, and I think it's also got one of those. It's got one of those moments that is instantly quotable. If I start doing it now, Robin, you'll know exactly what it is, and you'll be able to quote
I
it.
know what you're talking about.
Who the hell are you? I'm the Doctor. I'm a Time Lord. I'm 903 years old. I'm from the planet Gallifrey, the constellation Cerberus. I'm the man who's going to save all your lives and all 6 billion on the planet below. Got a problem with that?
See, that's a wonderful quote.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember that so well. I'll tell you why. Do you remember on the Doctor Who website, they had the Doctor Who trailer maker.
Oh my god! Oh whoa! I'm getting
Yeah.
a brain blast right now. This is unlocking apart my
Right.
childhood.
Gutted because I made so many on that thing, so many like absolutely fire trailers,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Which are lost to time now entirely. But I remember I
Oh,
had one where I had him go, "I'm the Doctor," and I had it cut to another scene, and then I'm trying to feel cut into something else. And like having like I think like one of like the Murray Gold songs just swooping at that point there.
oh,
So forever
nice.
ingrained in my head. But I can never. I'm gonna have to recreate it someday. I don't know how, but you know,
To be
maybe
fair,
on the way back machine, I'll be able to find a way to get back to the trailer maker and do it. You know.
oh my god, we have to go way back for that. Way back. Woof. Back when I didn't have grey hairs. No, but there's also that wonderful line at the end, which I will admit is like one of those golden nuggets of the I've got money. And it's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Oh,
that's
mate, you need to check out. What's his name? Mr. Copper's actor. What is his name? Mr. Copper's actor.
oh
Clive
shit,
Swift.
yeah. Yeah,
Clive Swift.
yeah.
You have to check out sometime. I'll tell you that now. You have to check out the the interview he gave in Doctor Who magazine because it's it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life.
Is it him like clearly not remembering anything about it or like being
No,
drunk or
no,
something?
he
Okay,
gets
okay.
like he gets really pissed off. And the
What?
question attempts to remind it's so
Oh
I
no.
need to hang on. I'm derailing this podcast already on the
Okay,
second
okay.
thing.
Oh yeah, we won't spend long on each episode. No bullshit,
No,
we're doing this.
yeah, he had a grouchy interview.
Oh my god, that's
Hello,
hilarious.
Clive. I'm recording this interview on tape, if that's okay. Don't you know shorthand? It's a dying art, isn't it? I find that dictaphones are more reliable in interview situations. I want to quote what you say accurately. A lot of actors won't do interviews on tapes. I never noticed that in almost a decade of doing this job. I'm an actor. As soon as you switch that thing on, I'm performing. I think you'll find the proper journalist knows shorthand. And it just carries on. And it's really funny because he's there and he's talking down to Benjamin and Cook, who does the interview. It's so I'm going to send this to you, and you can
Please do.
check
I'm
it
going
out
to
your
read
own
this.
time.
Yeah, and yeah, those listening, I think this is an absolute banger of an interview to check out for yourselves.
It's so funny.
Oh, with that
Genuinely one
being
of the
said,
funniest
like,
things.
what have you got any other points that you'd like to bring up for this episode?
All I would say is it's the Doctor trying to make the best of a bad situation, trying to just save someone in this situation. It's anti-capitalist as well because you have Max Capricorn, who's played by George Costigan in this. You know, who call me Max. He becomes a cyborg in a chamber. He's trying to collect the insurance or the collateral from the destruction of the ship and the
Mm.
destruction of Earth as well, from it as well. And it's all about that. And he's stopped then by Astrid as well. I think it sums up the human condition, especially at Christmas. People die. It's not always happy. Christmas can be sad. People can die at Christmas. And it's, for me, a very, very good, thriller Christmas episode in the style of Die Hard, in the style of Poseidon Adventure. I'd give it an 8 out of 10.
Wow. Now, I think I've gone on record in the past of giving this way back when we first discussed our list of Christmas episodes. I think back when I hadn't watched it after years and years, I gave it a 1 out of 10, which was, very low. And I admit that was quite a low score. However, I still leave such a bad taste in my mouth. I really cannot enjoy this even on like a Doctor Who level. For me, it's a 3 out of 10. Like,
Wow.
I know, but I
Star,
just
come in now, break through the podcast walls and beat him up. Go.
no, stop, no.
Robin, don't worry. I'm not going to beat you up. But this Christmas is going to be a very, very fun time. Because now we do Modern Who episode reviews like Rose And at Christmas, we should do something festive. You're going to sit with us, and you're going to watch Voyage of the Damned. And you are going to fucking like it, boy! Right. Carry on.
There you go. Okay, that brings us on to Series 4, Episode 1, Partners in Crime. First airing 5th of April, 2008, Robin. Oh God, we're old. We're so old. Obviously featuring Catherine Tate returning as Donna Noble for the series, and oh my goodness, I think it's probably Russell's best first episode of a series.
It is. It is. And it's one of my favorite first episodes, like in a season as well. Like, not, it's obviously it doesn't count as the Doctor's introductory sort of first episode. But as first episodes go, I think this is such a great one. It does so many things
Yeah.
right in terms of introducing and establishing who the companion is, introducing their
But then
relationship with the
again,
Doctor.
with that, we already know who Donna is, don't we? But
Hmm.
what it does is it introduces us to who the new Donna is following her adventure with the Runaway Bride, because
Yeah, that's what I
she
mean.
is leaps and bounds from what she was.
And I
She
think that's
is.
an improvement. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's good to see characters change and grow. And I think that was part of her journey with The Runaway Bride. And I think that's a really positive thing, especially you really see that whole difference in character of the whole season, which I think is one of those positive effects that the Doctor has on people, even if he's only met them briefly. And he could have maybe have only met her briefly just once in the past, but she still would have had those qualities, which I think is wonderful.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting as well because it sets up. We're very clear from this episode. Number one, what Donna's relationship is with her mother, with Sylvia. We
Oh
know what
yeah.
her relationship is with her granddad as well, who, funny enough, originally in the script, it was actually going to be Jeff Noble, her dad, who was played by Howard Atfield back in The Runaway Bride, who sadly passed away whilst they were filming.
Ah.
So they then made the decision to bring Bernard Cribbins in to play Wilfred Mott, the character who played the Voyage of the Damned, and decided to blend them together, which is so beautiful and pays off so beautifully in the end of time part 2 as well when we get there. But it's really lovely as well in this because we note his absence, and he's obviously passed away since the Runaway Bride, so that has obviously affected Donna in some way as well. But then we're also seeing Wilf, who we've met, and he just appears as a lovely little cameo in Voyage of the Damned. So it's lovely to see that there. And like Donna comes in and she's a real like firecracker now, and the intelligence which she shows here is leaps and bounds what she was showing in the Runaway Bride. But I think it's the Doctor almost like unlocked her potential, where she was always this person but was just lost in modern day life. So and obviously it's like you say that we're not being introduced to the Doctor, we're not being introduced to the companion, we're simply being shown, oh, this is what the 10th Doctor is like at this point. He's basically walking through it, second nature. Yeah, he's still sort of missing not having someone with him, but he's grown. He's not just piling over Rose all the time. Then you have Donna as well, where she is, and then coming for the episode, we have the great one-off villain Miss Foster, played by Sarah Lancaster, who
Oh yeah, she is really
I
good.
mean, one of the best actresses in Britain. Even now, if anyone listening to this has seen Happy Valley, they'll totally agree with me there. Yeah, it's just a great episode. The adipose are so cute as well.
They're
I love the
so
adipose.
cute. Even though the way people dyed this, if you just take a minute to think about it, is absolutely horrific. Just like body horror, and it's like,
Oh,
oh
so she
yeah,
was made of adipose.
yeah. It's like, I mean, if Doctor Who, well, imagine if adipose were in Torchwood, just how much bloodier that would be. Like organs and
Yeah.
the like coming out, like little adipose made out of like red pumping hearts and the like.
Let's not let anyone get in Torchwood Land get their hands on the adipose, because that would be kind of
No, they're
creepy.
they're too adorable for that.
it's not only does it have that beautiful sort of the moments of poignancy in terms of, when they're connecting with the people that have, been taking this stuff, with the adipose, you have the poignancy of Donna, her mum, and her granddad, and he's like, here's that bit, oh, look out to the stars, and she's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, if you ever see I'm starting to cry now just thinking about
Oh,
it.
bless.
She's like, it's like, she looks at, she's like, if you ever see a blue box out there, you run for me. And it's like,
That
oh,
it's a real feel good
beautiful.
episode. It really is. Like the way that they constantly keep missing each other. It's very Scooby Doo. It's very
Yeah.
cartoony,
Oh, and
but
then
yeah,
that's the
yeah,
thing. They
yeah,
spend most of the episode, when they get there,
yes.
it's one of the best scenes in all Doctor Who, just for how funny it is. And I bet no one will see it because we'd be on the Zoom call, but I bet we could recreate it here. Just
Yeah. Only me and Jack will get that, but yeah.
oh, it's up there. I think it's fantastic, and obviously it also starts that breadcrumb trail of, number one, the planets disappearing, which is
Hmm.
comes back into things again there. And we get that great scene of the Doctor and Donna outside the TARDIS, and she's like, just be like, "Yep, I'm coming with you," and he's like, "Look, I've just had someone with me, and it got a bit awkward, so, I just want to mate." You just want to mate? No, I just want a mate. You're not mate with me, sunshine. Oh, and it just
Oh.
sets the tone so perfectly for their relationship, is because I think by that point, and it's really good of them to recognize it as well, as a production team, and Russell as a showrunner at a point to go, like, yeah, no, look, we've had the relationship with Rose, we've had the un- unrequited love with Martha.
Mm.
They need to be two equals. They need to just be best friends.
Oh, they do. They do. And the fact that Donna has her stuff ready, it's not like poor Martha who literally has what she's wearing, and that's all she wears throughout her whole time with the doctor, compared to Donna who's just got like a whole mini wardrobe just waiting for her. It's just like, yeah, she's packing,
Yeah.
she's ready, and
And it's
that
the blue
wonderful.
car. It's parked by the TARDIS as well.
Yeah.
Like, they kept missing each other, and then she runs over and says to a blonde woman, she's just spoken to her mum, tell her the keys are in there. They're in that bin, And she runs off, and the woman turns around, and it's
Yeah.
Rose. It's Billy Piper, and everyone just goes, "What the?" I would love to be a fan who, well, I suppose Christine would have had it actually.
Yeah, yeah, no, she had that reaction. My fiance, we were watching this, and again, I remember her coming back at the finale. I forgot a period in episode one of the new series, so we both had that kind of, "Way, it's Billy Piper!" I mean, she really, really was excited because she loved Billy Piper. Both did, but it's just like, oh, that's such a good thing. Like, not only is it just a fun episode, but to have those little breadcrumbs, have that, wait, what the hell? She's in another dimension. How is she here? What? And just like, yeah, and then you just end things off with the nice note of them flying in the TARDIS in the sky, waving to Wilf, and him just overjoyed, so excited, and it's just, oh, it's cracking stuff. It's absolutely cracking.
It's a straight 8 out of 10 for me. It's
Mm.
just beautiful,
Oh, like usually I do rate these like that as well. Like for me, like when it comes to like an episode one, it's usually ends up like as a seven, but I feel like a 7.5 is really strong for this because I know there's
It's a
some real
real,
bangers that come out this
it's
season.
big comfort, this one, isn't it? And the only
Mm,
reason I wouldn't put it up as, like, if I was rating it against other, like, first episode, it'd be a 10 out of 10.
mm.
Because, I have to prepare for what's coming up. I feel that an 8 out of 10 is, works for this one personally. And
I
yeah,
I completely agree with that. Which leads
brings us
us
on
on.
to episode 2, The Fires of Pompeii, written by James Moran, directed by Colin Teague. Robin, if I had a nickel for every supporting actor in this that would go on to become a main actor in the show, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's strange that it happened twice.
I
Because yeah, we have Karen Gillan appear in this episode a year before she's, well, 2 years before she's Amy Pond actually, and we have Peter Capaldi appear before he becomes the 12th Doctor. And what's lovely about that is that this story ties back into why his face is chosen. You know, which is looking forward a good number of years, but still, I'm gonna tell you, Robin, it's going to sway things. So in terms of New Who, this is one of my absolute favorite historical episodes.
Yeah, no, I agree with you because not only is it like they've done a great job with the sets and the costumes, and you know, it makes you think it's going kind of one way, which is kind of typical for like say a traditional kind of past episode Doctor Who. But when they actually address the fact that this is Pompeii, people are gonna die. They don't just save the day, they don't change history. It's a fixed event. And shit hits the fan, and it shits the fan hard, and it tests them as characters, and the personalities clash. It's so good making you think it's going one way and then just changing it for another. It's
Everything about it, from the guest performances to the costumes to the sets as well, which I believe is this real like it's a set they made for, I want to say like for Rome or something, like the TV show like
mm,
Rome, and they had this place set up which is basically just like a Roman city basically. And it's absolutely sort of gorgeous, you know, in terms of the sets and what have you. And then obviously we have again just everything about, I think the monster design for the pyrovials is really cool as well, because it's the sense that it's a Roman soldier but like a big rock fire monster.
yeah, it's one of my favorite designs,
Mm.
and I think it's a very like underappreciated design as well because it's so cool and it's so intimidating and it doesn't the great thing about the choice of monster as well is it doesn't take away from the story. The whole focus is on the people going through this experience. And if you had a monster which was a big talking baddie, you know, with ha 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 ha, then you know that would sort of rob some of the urgency or sort of take away from other people's lines. And you do get that. You do get that time spent with this family who are just having a regular day. They're dealing with the quakes and the like, but it's just normal to them. They don't know what's coming. And you, as the audience, knowing what Pompeii is, just
Yeah,
makes that.
it's that wonderful dramatic irony which I can remember, you know, teachers talking about when we were talking about plays like The Crucible and stuff. And
Mm,
it's the dramatic irony there that we know this is happening, but they don't. And it's also the fact as well that, you know, I think in any other sort of Doctor Who story, we might be looking at this event being caused by, like, that being the eruption of Mount Vesuvius being caused by the Pyroval, by the monster. But no, it's the Doctor and Donna that have to press the button, having that thematic link back to the Time War, where the Doctor has to be the one to press the button, and he's like, "I can't do this again," and Donna has to be the one to help him do it then. And it's so funny because it's episode 2 of series 4 of Doctor Who, but there's so much of this that sums up just who the Doctor is as a character, and so much
mm.
going forward, like so many themes that are drawn upon, you know, Day of the Doctor, Deep Breath, and beyond. So many things that are so important, and even so much so that, you know, he at this point he's a stickler for the rules. He's like, no, don't you see, if I could save it, I could save. And he's talking about the Time Lords. He'd go back and he'd save all them there, and then Doctor's just like, just save someone. And again, I cry thinking about it there. You know, the family are cuddling each other there, you know, and as the ashes coming down, and it's like, you know, it plays up to something which I'm not always a big fan of, like, you know, the sort of the idea of like the Jesus figure of the Doctor. But it's not so much that he's the
Yeah.
lonely god, you know, the wandering gods that say the TARDIS doors opening and coasting, like, and then just putting his hand up, come with me. just everything about it. It's perfect Doctor Who. It really is.
It is, and like not only do we still get some really funny moments at the start, like how they translate what was it translated to? I'm trying
Oh
to
yeah, like
remember it
Gaelic,
now.
isn't it? Like
Yeah,
he thinks she's speaking Welsh. Yeah.
well, yeah, and and it's like that's a question that you never have thought about before. And it's like, oh yeah, what would happen? So she actually addresses it, and that's great. And I've got a friend I do who I've always spoken to her, and I've always said like, oh, this is one of my favorites, and Donna's my favorite companion. And my friend is like, oh, I can't stand her. You know, she's an idiot, and I really don't like the series. And I'm like, this episode. Like, she shows so much heart. She's the one who presses for the doctor to save a family. For her to go through this ordeal. This is actually as well the first episode where we really see Catherine Tate not being like a comedic character, but being someone desperate, pleading to someone who has a technology that could save lives and isn't because of rules and the like. And it's heartbreaking. And whilst they can't save everyone, to change the lives of this family for the better, to save them. And, you know, the reward isn't to have them be immortalized as gods, but it's still like a fun little thing at the end, you know.
Yes.
And it's, oh, there's so many emotions in this episode. And
Such, and again, as just for the character of the Doctor and everything going forward, it's such just an important episode. Generally, I need to, because a couple of years ago it was novelized. James Moran got to come back and do the target novelization.
oh, yeah,
I
how was
really
it?
need to sit down. I've not read it yet, so I really need to sit down and go through that at some point there, because that'll be a amazing read, I'm sure, because James Moran is a fantastic writer, and it'll be lovely to get sort of that bit of extra detail about it. But I'm happy to give this one straight away. It's a 9 out of 10 for me. This one is so close to perfection, you know.
Honestly, snap. Like, this, it works on so many levels. It pulls the rug out from underneath you to what you kind of expect in the episode to be to what it ends up being. And it's just such an emotional episode. And
Yeah.
and the fun does not stop there, does it? With
No. Now we go
ooh,
to Planet of Slavery. I mean, Planet of the Ood.
yeah. And Jack, do you want to tell the story about the certain toy advert that was playing when this episode came out?
Oh
Do you
God, I
not
can't
remember
remember.
that?
No, I can't remember
Oh,
it. No.
no, do you not remember? There was the toy advert. It was like, help the doctor free the Ood from slavery. And it was like, what? It's like, I'm sorry, what? And it's such total whiplash. And it's like, oof, oof.
I
It's
can
okay,
imagine.
everyone. The
I can
doctor's
imagine.
ended slavery.
I can imagine like a 7-year-old, like the target audience for that, just being like, "Wait, what? Like that's a bit." I feel
It's
that's above my pay grade. Like,
Mm. It's one of those great ones. You look it up on YouTube, and it's just such total whiplash. Like you know what they're
oh,
trying to
listen.
go for, but
Well, just wait till we get to turn left, because I'll remind you of something when we get there. Writer of
mm.
Planet of the Ood is Keith Temple. Director was Graham Harper. It's Donna's first alien world.
Mm.
They arrive at the Ood sphere. It's it's a very, very good episode, with again those poignant moments that you want, running through here. I always tear up when I think about the scene of the Doctor and Donna, the Doctor Donna, in the
Yeah.
cell with the Ood, and her saying, can I, you know, he's like, oh, they're singing, and she's like, well, can I hear them? And he's like, you don't want to do that, and she's like, no, I want to, and she has to make him stop because it's so haunting. And Russell fucking gets him to sing for us at his fucking end. So it's like, thanks, Russell. We can't switch it off when we want to. We have to listen to Veil Decay all the way fucking through. It's again I think it shows what a sort of well-oiled machine New Who was by this point here. That it's just a decent story, isn't it? It's just a decent story, great locations, very good cast in it as well.
It's a
Yeah,
great sci-fi location. Like I know a lot of it ends up just being kind of warehouses, but that snow effect. And you know what? I think most of like the CGI backgrounds, I think most of them still stand up. They don't overuse them, which I think is a good thing. And I think what they do in this episode, like the fact that they build this up, you know that something is not quite right. Like I've always said on the show how much I love practical effects, and the Ood are such a wonderful, wonderful design for a monster. Like, because they can look really intimidating, and when they like full on freak out and
what's
go
so great
rabid,
about them. That's what's so great about them. Because like the last time we've seen them was what the Impossible Planet, the Satan Pit. And
yeah,
now
yeah,
we're getting this planet where they're from, and we're still seeing that sort of when they go red or whatever it is. When they go they go beast mode, whatever it is you want to call it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
They have such a sweet face, but the second they're lost, it's like Jesus Christ.
Oh,
They're
it's nightmare
terrifying.
fuel.
You know?
It's
Yeah.
like that one guy who's getting like his face like slobbered on, and it's like, oh, that's like really like close to zombie level, and to
No.
get the context for what those balls are, it's like it's so I'm tripping over my words here because of just how excited I am talking about the season, and it's
Yeah.
to take something where if we never had the Ood again, we just think, oh, it's the communication device. But the fact that it's actually a part of them and it's just
Mhm.
been imprisoned to keep them as these slaves, it's like, oh, what the, that's really
Yeah.
like a
Look,
great
yeah, 'cause
plot
Donna's
twist.
like, what is it? Donna goes, she's like, they walked you with their brain in their hand. Like, come on. They're
Mm,
a vulnerable species, and that just goes to show. And there's some great stories that sort of use the Ood in very similar ways. I'm thinking of the War Master, Master of Callus, which is a fantastic set that people should check out from the War Master range.
a
But
great
and
body
then,
horror.
well, body horror wise as well. I mean, the when the guy gets knocked over the balcony and gets
Oh,
swallowed by the
yeah.
brain.
Oh, because for me, I watched Akira at a very young age, and the scene of the character getting crushed by the flesh in that movie terrified me. So to see that as my younger self, I hated that. But also the
Yeah.
guy with his skin peeling off his head,
Oh, it's really
actually,
again. It speaks so well to the practical effects, but it really is creepy, isn't it? As what is it, Mr. Halpin gets turned into an Ood because of his hair tonic, which is just like, oh god, oh, I don't know. It's a tough one actually as well because like he has a line earlier in it where he sends off his own personal Ood. He's like, no, go be with your people, which is almost like honorable, despite the fact he's a capitalist fucking slaver.
flavor, yeah.
Yeah, it's really strange. And obviously he gets to come up as by the end anyway. And this is another one that's been novelized as well. I don't have this one yet, but Keith Temple came and novelized Planet the Ood as another lovely target as well. People can check out. For me, it's very good. There's not a lot I can really critique on it. I gave it a 7 out of 10.
I've said that for me, like I gave it like an 8 out of 10 just because of
Mhm.
just like the practical effects, the stories, this driving of characters where we're still getting some like funny moments for like them to bond and banter as these two companions traveling, but to also then just throw us off our game with, oh, just literally just slavery. And it's like,
Yeah.
ah, mm. So after two rather heavy episodes, having the Suntaran stratagem and the Poison Sky is definitely
Yeah.
a bit of a
Yeah.
return to roots where it needs to calm down a bit.
Mhm. What we typically when we have a two-parter, we combine them, don't we, for our scores, don't we?
We
Because
do,
it
yes.
yeah. So the Sontaran stratagem and the Poison Sky are written by Helen Rayner and directed by Douglas McKinnon, and it is a return of the classic Who villain, the Sontarans, who obviously fans will know first appeared in the season 11 story, the Time Warrior, facing the Third Doctor. And, well, I like the Sontarans. I don't think I've ever felt them as like a real threat, personally.
Like, they say this in Doctor Who Confidential, how every season they had to reintroduce a classic monster.
But did they?
And
But did they?
yeah, I'm glad you've actually said that,
Bearing
Jack.
in mind as well, because when we get to the end of the series, they reintroduce another classic element anyway. Like, we have Davros appear at the end of this series, don't we?
Yeah, no, you are true, and I'm glad you also said what you said, because as much as the design is very iconic, the Sontarans have never been a favorite villain of mine. I don't feel that same fear when I see a Dalek or a Cyberman. There's not that kind of lack of humanity. It's good to have like more kind of humanoid monsters, actual aliens.
Yeah,
But
but when they're shorties, and the Sontarans have kind of always been like a joke in a way. Like, even when you watch
yeah,
Warrior and Link comes out of his dome ship there, and it looks like he's almost all intimidating, but he drops like a little pathetic flag into the ground. Is like, I claim this land in this world and the glory of Sontar, And it's like, and it's, yeah, it's, though we have Martha come back in it, which is great. It's really
I'll have
cool
a
that
muff.
it's really cool that the inciting incident in this for the Doctor is that it's Martha ringing and bringing him back to work with Unit, which is really cool. And it's cool because we see Unit come back in a way that we haven't seen Unit come back in the new series before. So that's another returning Who part of it as well, from the classic series. Obviously Third Doctor's era was massively for Unit, and he was still technically a scientific advisor for many stories. So it's, yeah, it's just a bit of a funny one. I think there are some great performances again. Like, you have that's where Luke Rattigan by played by Ryan Sampson in this, and obviously we have, we touch base with Sylvia and Wilf in this episode as well, which is really interesting.
Yeah,
See where
I forgot Ryan Sampson was in this, because it was during this time where he had like his sitcom series, wasn't it? That's where he was kind of really gaining his popularity, and then he had
I
this.
do remember seeing him for something else, and then obviously after this he goes on to being like Plebs and Brazek and stuff like that. So
Mm.
very, 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 very good sort of character actor. And yeah, it's a funny one because I think in a rewatch it is kind of, I think it's the lowest point of the series, personally, these two episodes. And even then, I think that they're still pretty good. There's nothing objectively bad about them. It's just that if I hit them, I might go, oh yeah, I'm gonna go on to, wait, no, there is a worse episode than this, actually. There is worse. There is worse.
Yeah,
It does get
yeah,
worse.
yeah. No, no.
Take it back.
I
Take
was
it back.
going like, wait a minute, wait a minute. It's around the corner. It's The thing is, I think the Sontarans work great as support villains. Like their introduction in Flux, I love,
Yeah.
because they're just there. That actually them being part of the Napoleon War, that's brilliant. And
I
they do
just
some
wanted to
really
ride a
good stuff.
horse.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like,
that's awesome.
and as well, when they're used properly for like comedic effect, and they do feel threatening in Flux as well. I'm like, sorry, you show me that clip of Dan Starkley as the Sontaran going, chocolate. I'm
Chocolate.
gonna laugh. I love that shit.
I love it.
You know?
I feel like they've finally learned to just go and lean into it. It's like, look, they're potato people. Let's just have fun with this. And they do a bit of that in this, but
But they try to make him appear as like a real threat in this, but then the trouble is you have one come out and the unit soldiers sort of laugh at him, and it's like, I don't know.
it takes
And they're,
away
and they're
when
working with Ratigan for some reason. Like they're working with this sort of this think tank of genius teenagers. It's all a bit weird, isn't it? You know?
It's weird because they're clearly trying to repeat Dalek with this guy who goes, oh, "What you gonna do? Sucker me to death?" But whereas in Dalek, it's absolutely
Oh,
horrifying.
it's got a bloody great fucking gun.
Yeah, and it's also like it's horrifying because the guy's face gets crushed by being vacuumed, especially if you have the DVD version where they add that
Yeah.
crunching sound. But in this, like they tried to do that, and they'd be like, "Oh, well, I've paralyzed you, so we can take you in." And I can't remember now if it's like an experiment or something, but it's just not the same. And they try to make cars leaking out poisonous gas to be like the big threat, but it's not particularly scary or intimidating. And I just find it hilarious just seeing soldiers with the machine guns like shooting at the
Yeah.
car's exhaust. It's
You
like,
know, you know what is funny? Thinking about this episode, looking at it, it's with Martha's inclusion in it. We're not privy to how long has passed for Martha since she left the TARDIS, but by this time she's got her doctorate,
yeah.
been employed by UNIT. She's now engaged to Tom Milligan, who was that one-off character from Last of the Time Lords,
Mm.
and she's also worked with Torchwood, which is Series 2 Torchwood stuff, which really we should have done before we went into this, but
Oh, we
you
should
know,
have. Oh,
but
God, we should.
it is what it is, so it's an interesting one. And obviously we have a weird Martha clone run around for a bit as well, and it's all a bit funny, it's all a bit weird. It's all right. The Valiant reappears from the last series as well, and that's kind of cool, but I don't know, it is what it is. The Doctor does that bit where he does, "Are you my mummy?" and he has the gas
Yeah.
mask on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that gets a laugh out of me. But
yeah.
for
No,
me,
this is it's a 6 out of 10 at best,
yeah,
really.
6.
5 out of 10 on a bad day. So
It's above average. It doesn't do any harm, but it's not that same heights. It's oh, at least the next episode's better.
episode 6, The Doctor's Daughter by Stephen Greenhorn and directed by Alice Troughton. I wonder if
Mm.
that's any relation to despite the unusual name, she is not related. Okay, she wasn't related to Patrick Troughton, so that's fine. But just still, yeah. It's an interesting Robin, because in terms of the podcast, this episode is pretty important because we get our name from this episode.
Oh my God. Yeah, it is this episode. Oh,
Yeah,
wow. Yeah, no,
so
you're
much
right.
so that whenever I've rewatched this and they say an awful lot of run, I go they said
Uh,
it, they said it. Yeah, it's wow,
Hmm.
it's not terrible. It's not great. I remember having a massive crush on Georgia Moffat when this first went out. Massive,
Mm.
massive crush. So it's and I think that there's some good moments in it. It's really interesting when the Doctor's like denying that she's his daughter, and then it takes him feeling both her hearts to then be accepting of it, because I think he's so this point post Time War, post having lost Susan, post having lost everything, he's almost like he's denying himself that connection, because
Mm.
either A, he doesn't think he deserves it, B, he doesn't want to be hurt again, or C, he just can't. He's still having his "I'm last of the Time Lords." So it's yeah. And then you have Marth as a subplot with a hat, which is a bit weird.
Th- This is my problem with the episode. Like, it really feels like the episode got rewritten to include her. It feels like
Yeah,
they got her for the Sontaran two-parter, and it's like, oh, that's great, that's great. It's like, hey, do you want to be in one more episode? It's like, yeah, that'd be great. It's like, and you're excited for her to be coming and joining along. It's like Martha, our Queen, we've got Donna. It's like, fuck yes. And then she gets split up, and honestly, it's really hard to think about what she actually contributes to in this story.
yeah. She because she has her little half companion with her, who then fucking dies, and she doesn't mention him. Like she's just like, oh, yeah. Like
Oh my
after she
God.
like, meh.
Yeah, no, she has her never-ending story moment with him, and and it's just it's a shame because it really does feel like they rewrote it for her to be included because even though I believe it is thanks to her for like having the map appear, but it always just feels like, well, the Doctor just would have done that eventually with his sonic screwdriver. Her taking the shortcut ends up getting the fish companion killed.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I love you, Martha, but just leaves a bad taste in my mouth thinking that this could have just been
Yeah.
avoided.
It's funny
Eh,
as well because Russell thought it was marvelous and says it does exactly what it does on 10, and it's the episode's designed to have a lasting effect and real impact on the Doctor. And Greenhorn stated in Doctor Who magazine that the Doctor doesn't change from it. It's the closest we come to a filler episode, I would say, in this series. And it's just I think Jenny's all right. Some people find her a bit annoying. I think she's just a strong female character, and I think that annoys some people. You know,
ugh,
and
yeah.
I know in the original cut she was going to stay dead, but then I think Russell was almost like, "Oh no, come on, yeah, have a fly off into the sunset like that,"
It's
So
great because she then comes back for
big finish
there
in
we go.
comics. There you go.
Thank God they do that.
Yeah,
Because
but
I
I
watched
still see people. If I see one more fucking person saying Mrs. Flood is Jenny, I swear to fucking Christ.
Oh no.
I don't know. I don't know what I would. I don't know what I at this point I would prefer more, Rani or Jenny. But either way, I'm just like, guys, come on. It's not a good idea. Shut up.
uh, After watching this episode with my fiance, and she turned to me and was like, "Oh, did she come back?" And I just did like the slow turn, big shit eating grin on my face, and just
Oh,
like,
Jenny died on the way back to her home planet.
yeah, I, Jack, I did that. I quoted that exact same thing I did. And it's like, oh, that's disappointing. Yes, it is disappointing. And
Yeah.
oh,
Speaking of disappointing, let's get to our score for it, shall we?
yes.
Look, I put a 4 out of 10 because there are still those golden nuggets that are in every episode of Doctor Who. I feel like I'm being very generous with the 4 though. I feel like it's very bad. I'm going to stick with the 4 though. I feel like it might be the rest of the series pulling it up, but yeah, really stands out as like a strong one.
See, I've been debating with this one for a long time. All the others I feel really confident with. For a while, I had this at like a 5 out of 10, mid of the mid. But the more we talk about it and the more I realize it could have just have had stuff cut. Like, it's sad. It makes me sad when I say it should have had not Martha cut, but that subplot cut. And it feels like, oh, well, then you've just taken away half the story. And then the other half we've gotten wasn't any good in the first place. So even if I gave it a 5 out of 10, that wouldn't even feel like it justified half of it. So yeah, like 4 out of 10. I I'm gonna
Yeah,
agree with you on that. It's yeah, it's not.
but thanks for the podcast name.
Mm.
Honestly, I don't know how we end. I genuinely, we're thinking about like 4 years now as well. I
It
don't
was
know
you.
how we landed on an awful lot of running. I honestly
It
don't.
was it was you that came up with it because we were brainstorming ideas, and I remembered trying to play along with time and space or
Yeah. Oh, what was it we had? We
like
had Regeneration Nation or Station. We had or something like that. I think we had Radio Gallifrey. We had
yeah,
as
Radio
well.
Gallifrey was one option. I was quite excited for Radio Gallifrey, and then I think one day you just came up with you just sent it like an awful lot of running, and you like really pushed it, and I was like, oh yeah, actually that does have a bit of a wing in it,
Yeah, no,
and it was
I
the more you
remember. I
pushed it.
remember. It was one of those ones where I think we put it out to a few people, and sort of like, universally, people were like, "Yeah, an awful lot of running's the one to go for." So, yeah, thank you, the Doctor's Daughter, for the podcast name, but we're not affiliated with you.
No. Oh, which thankfully brings us on to just a good, fun episode with
Yeah,
the Wasp and the
it's
Unicorn.
very important to preface with this episode of the Unicorn and the
Oh,
Wasp, though. Obviously, the writer credited is a known shitbag transphobe, and I'm not even going to bring.
oh, yeah. Thank you for
So,
bringing that.
and I think it's important to say that there. So anything good about this episode, I'm actually going to credit to Russell T Davis, because such as was the time, we know that Russell, in terms of writer scripts, did not touch like Moffat scripts, but would take a script and rewrite it from other writers. So I'm just going to credit all the good stuff in this to Russell, and that's that. And I'm not even going to mention the bastard that is credited. So it
Thank
is
you for reminding
written,
me about that.
it's written
Mm.
by Rusty Davis, I'm saying, and directed by Graham Harper.
The-
And it is the Unicorn and the Wasp, and it's just a fun Agatha Christie run around, isn't it?
yeah, it's wonderful because I knew for a fact that this would be one of my fiance's favorites because she's a huge Agatha Christie fan. She's gotten me into a lot of the stuff, including Poirot as well, through them. And so to have this with them, does it borderline on a bit too many references to her books? Sure. But is it fun to count how many references you can pick out?
Oh god,
Oh, definitely.
there's worse ones. There's worse ones that I won't bring up here, but I recommend checking out the Writer's Tale if you want to hear something real bad that almost made its way in. So
Oh, yeah, I think you've brought that up on the podcast before.
no, I haven't
Uh,
brought. I don't know if I
what?
brought it up before, but yeah, it's a.
Mm,
Ah,
I think I know the
yeah.
title. Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
move on from
Moving
that.
on. Yeah.
Like too risky, yeah. Look, I think I'm going to say, as a kid, as a teenager, I hated it.
Fair,
Genuinely.
fair, you know.
Since rewatching it, like as an adult, it's wonderfully funny. It
Mm.
captures Christie really perfectly in the story and everything. I I think it's great, you know?
I do. Like, and Jack, that's okay to have that because remember when I went on record saying years and years ago when I first watched School Reunion, I was not a fan of that because, oh, it's a school setting, I don't want to watch that. And I'm watching Doctor Who. And it's like, my God, like, I just punched my younger self. But Unicorn and the Wasp is wonderful. Like, I beat you to this, Jack. Just the wonderful scene of the doctor trying to like flush out the poison in him,
Oh
and you
yeah.
can see him just cracking up.
Oh,
Yes. Oh, it's so clearly he's trying to hold it all together while the two are just playing off each other
it just
perfectly.
shows what a comedic force of nature they are together. It really does. It plays up so
Mm.
brilliantly.
Which is why I'm glad you pointed out that Russell T Davis probably really worked on the script and changed it a lot. But we also have to really focus on the actors' performances and what they bring to this narrative, what they
Oh,
bring.
Tennant's
Um,
having a ball in this, isn't he?
oh,
He's having so much fun in the role. Like, when he's doing the whole
the
accusatory
pointed.
finger. And then when he finally gets his bit to do his flashback as well, and like he has that bit where I think it's so iconic of him sat in the chair where Agatha Christie's speaking to him, and he's just has this just smile across his face, and it's just
It's
brilliant.
and I've brought this up on the podcast. I love Donna Noble. I love you, Catherine Tate. But she cannot run for shit. And it's like,
No.
okay, Catherine Tate, you're running away from a giant wasp. Okay, this is a life or death situation, and action, and it's her just doing that kind of power walk, like sort of swans, and it's just like
Yeah.
I
I tell
know
you
she
what,
was like,
yeah. I tell you what is great about this one as well. We have and a lovely bit of casting. We have a actor who would go on to greater things post this, so much so that I believe she was even nominated for Oscars in Felicity Jones, who obviously would go on to be in
"Hmm,
stuff like Rogue One as well as The Theory of Everything. And it just goes to show how Doctor Who was great for sometimes just bringing A-listers out, without them being an A-lister yet. So it's very funny, isn't it, to see that looking back. Obviously, Christopher Benjamin as well, who's a classic Who alumni, uh, passed away very recently as well. Also plays Colonel Hugh in this. Comes back, just great. I've given it a 7 out of 10, but it's just a bit of fun. It is.
hmm,
It's one which I will whack on and just enjoy. Again, having to sort of have that caveat on my head that it's Russell writing it rather than the
hmm."
credited author. But yeah,
I think it's important that we address that, and I think for me, this is an episode that I loved when it first came on. It's an episode I still love to this day. I think the comedic elements gel so well, and honestly, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. Like I just have such a ball with this one. Like I love past settings. I love just all the little things that sort of come together with this. Like the nice little nod with a what was it? Donna Noble trademark, and to actually have that in the book at the end. It's just like, oh, you know
yeah.
what? That's silly fun. I like that.
I do like it as well. It's very good. It's a very sweet one. I think it's really, how it ties into Agatha Christie's real life disappearance as well. I think it
Yes.
does that in a very respectful way. I think so. Yeah,
I,
it's one I
there's always
like.
that thin line, isn't there, when you're doing like an ode historic character. You've got to make sure that it's not going to be shitting on loved ones or people who died or the like. It's important to run that tightrope. And I think this is not only just a really fun episode, but this is exactly what we need before the next two-parter we get.
Yeah, and look,
Mm,
that comes us on to the next two parts. And what I will say, Robin, is this starts us off on what I like to call, and I think many other people as well, affectionately refer to as the run. In the sense
mm.
that from this until Journey's End, we have near nigh on perfect Doctor Who
It's
for these episodes in terms of the direction, the writing, the quality in these episodes for many different things. It's up there, you know. So that does bring us to the two-parter: Science in the Library and Forest of the Dead, written by Stephen Moffat. Oh, never heard of him before, and directed by Euros Lynn. Um, you can see Moffat sowing the seeds of his era here,
mm.
can't you? You know, and my goodness, what a two-parter this is!
that the man brought his A game for this. Like he was like, oh, I'm gonna be up for the next season, am I? Well,
The
I need
man
to
has
like
bills to pay.
what
Oh,
it's
Jesus!
difficult to know where to begin with this. Like it can be very difficult to do sets for sci-fi episodes because you've got to get that balance of, let's face it, budget. But you've also got to make sure that you can come up with something that's really intriguing. And to set it in a library, somewhere that is very claustrophobic, very quiet. It's that perfect environment for somewhere that's just a little bit eerily creepy, especially when it's so quiet and just empty. And to then just add those kind of sci-fi touches, which are just a few, but it still doesn't take you away from the experience.
Yeah, and to put in an enemy as iconic in this as the Vash and the Rada,
Yes.
like, it's it's there's that line they have in it, where it's like Mr. TARDIS, Will's brought it up on here way back, it's just the poetry of the description of like they're the dust and sunbeams. Like,
Mm.
like how, and we have a planet that is overrun with them, as we know. We learn this because the books are made at, the books on that planet are made out of the trees in which they were from for their planet. So the planet is just overrun with this Vashta Nerada. It's like every shadow, any shadow could be holding one.
The
Like,
writing for this is so on point. Like they've taken the environment and they've made that part of the narrative. It's not just a location, it's actually a part of these creatures' homes. This is how they've gotten there. And that is such a clever detail. This could have been a warehouse, this could have been a mansion, but for them to go, no, this is a library for this particular reason, that's just clever writing. And that just works incredibly well. And
yeah. But you can see as well, it plays into that whole sort of like fairy tale aspect as well, because like we come to the episode first through like the mind of the little girl, don't we? And it's very reminiscent of what we see certainly with Amy, in terms of
mm,
seeing like, her imaginary friend is the doctor. In this, it's her imaginary place is the library, and the doctor comes into it there. So it's very interesting there. We have River appear for the first time as well, River Song. I think
yeah, we do.
she's just a fantastic character in this. Certainly there before some people think she starts becoming annoying. I've always loved River. Like I never thought she was annoying,
Same.
personally, But still, again, maybe some people just see strong female character and think that, but not me. Um, Cecil, I remember watching this and it being very clear that River had a history with the Doctor from her perspective, and he had no idea who she was. And I was just like, wait, what the fuck's going on here? Like, I
Mm.
remember like my teenage brain being like, is this Moff setting stuff up for his era? Is this something from classic who I don't know about? Like, so I had to do a lot of like, sort of looking back through or what have you. And there's just again so many iconic things about this, whether it be the Doctor running, like one last time River, one last run, and saving her like he does there, and that whole
Yeah.
bit. Personally, one of my favorite bits is when the Vashnaradas, just killed Anita, and the Doctor's like, "You just killed someone. Like that is not a safe place to stand." And the shadows start coming out for him, and he's like, "I'm the Doctor. We're in a library. Look me up." And then the shadows like go forward and then pause and then just retract. It's like, okay, we're good, bro.
It's it's so interesting that this was the first time we got with a song as well. And you think just how important a character she was. Like, could you imagine if this episode turned out to be a dumpster fire? If this ended up being absolutely awful and they had established something so important as this character who has such an integral history with the Doctor? Like they took a big gamble with that sort of aspect, something that's not been really done before, I believe. As I'm not as familiar with
Oh
classic
no,
Who,
certainly,
but
certainly. No.
it's and for them to do that, and not only does that work, but it's like, hey, you know what scared the crap out of people? Those little gas mask children. What can we have these skeleton people say? And it's just like, hey, who turned out the lights? And you don't
Yeah,
click it at first. And then the more they say it, it's just this, oh, oh, what's going on? And
so
it's
brilliant. I think it speaks to Moffat's strength as a writer that when he gets it, he really gets it.
Mm.
This is quintessential Doctor Who. This is when you think of Doctor Who and like you think of the strengths of something. This two-parter is a 9 out of 10 for me across the board. It's just brilliant.
Oh, I agree with that 9 out of 10, but it would be criminal for us to go past the stuff that Donna goes through in her like
Yeah.
make-believe
Oh
world.
God.
Like, add you, Jack, as a father, like that must hit even more home.
It so does, she's there being spoken to by the weird face of Elon Musk's ex-wife who comes over as well. So, literally he married her twice. So fucking
Oh,
hell.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh God.
because that's
Yeah, that
terrifying, her losing those kids.
how
And
and the end there as well, when all the people are being let out, and her husband in the thing, who she connects with, he goes to say her name, but he stops because he has a stammer, and
no,
it's heartbreaking, isn't it?
I
Oh,
forgot that. I absolutely forgot that. Oh, that's oh 9 out of 10. Yeah.
yeah. And you know what?
Oh,
It's really freaky as well. The minute they have, the statues turn around the faces, and and I just think, like, Donna Noble has left the library. Donna Noble has been saved. Donna Noble has left the library. Donna Noble has been saved.
the stinger. That's a
Oh,
phenomenal stinger where you do not know what the hell's going to happen next. You think that she's dead because it's like, how does a face get on there? And it's not her
yeah.
just being dead. It's oh,
Crazy, huh?
mm,
Yeah, 9 out of 10.
yeah,
Um, that brings us on to Midnight by Russell T Davis, directed by Alice Troughton. 10 out of 10.
yeah,
Perfect fucking
yeah,
Doctor Who.
yeah.
Boom. I
We,
cannot sing. I cannot sing Midnight's praises, not just as Doctor Who, but transcendently as a piece of drama, as
yeah,
nigh on a piece of theatre. It's just perfection.
yeah. No, this is an amazing episode. You could put this in on stage. I've said this before. You could put it on stage and it would just be a phenomenal piece. You could put this in Twilight Zone or any other piece of medium, and not only does it just excel as a Doctor Who story, but it just when it, as you say, transcends the medium. My God. And that less is best, not showing us the monster, letting us use our imaginations and working with that 10p budget. We joke about that 10p budget, but when it works with like, hey, what if it's an enclosed space? What if it's the paranoia getting to them? And what if it's making these people who start off really nice and lovely and talking to you on your long journey instead of watching TV, movies, whatever? It's like, and then for them to turn and be like, we should throw them out. And then all
Oh,
ganging up. And it's like,
it's in terms of drama, in terms of horror. This episode is terrifying, and it's
mm,
not even so much terrifying because of the Midnight Entity itself, with its, like, don't get me wrong, it's Leslie Sharp, I believe it is. Yeah, Leslie Sharp, who plays Sky Silvestri, who is taken over by the Midnight Entity, who just gives a chilling performance. As terrifying as her performance is, it's the herd mentality of the other people, the paranoia, and just sheer, like, I remember Russell describing Val as, she's a monster. Like, she's an
mm,
actual monster, where, they're taking him apart. And it's like, so in any other situation, the doctor walks into that room and he's the smartest person in the room, and they go with him because of the paranoia. They're like, what do you want to come around? Like, she's like, what is it? She has a line where she's like, the doctor's like, oh, I'm just around, I'm just from around. And she's like, what? Like an immigrant? And it's
it's
like, fuck.
what works great as well with this episode is usually the Doctor's greatest strength is their intelligence. But sometimes this is where the companion helps. The companion helps to make them less alien, and suddenly they become the most suspicious person because they almost know too
Yeah.
much. And the monster turns that. The fact that it goes from copying him to beating what he's saying, and you're like, oh, oh, and it's like that's how the monster gets him and like
Mm.
stops him from being able to move. It's oh.
Yeah. I think it's so funny. It's with the 10th Doctor here, and he gets so close to, he's so close to being killed. Like, one of the
Mm.
closest anyone has ever come to actually doing in the Doctor. And I think it speaks to it that you could swap out the 10th Doctor in this. I think you put the 11th Doctor in this, the episodes get solved quicker. I think you put the 12th Doctor in it, he's dead. I think he's
Oh,
dead. You know?
yeah, yeah. Oh my God, yeah. No, completely agree. Just any grumpy character, just Um. Oh, but yeah, I think that's perfect. And the ending, we've said it
Oh,
before, but oh, when he's just so defeated, it's an experience that even the doctor doesn't want to recount, where he usually will talk about most stuff, and for him to just be like, don't don't do that.
yeah, no, no, don't do that. Do you know what's funny about that bit as well, though? Because when they go to that bit and the swimming pool that Donna's at is actually it's the Celtic Manor in Wales. I went there on my honeymoon, my wife. I had a feeling I'm going like, oh fuck, this is at midnight. Like recognizing it and be like, shit.
Was she the one who turned to you the moment she knew what you were planning and just went,
And then,
don't
yeah,
do
then she started repeating what I was saying.
that.
It's so unsettling. Because, like, if I started doing it now, Robin, to you, you'd be like, oh, he's referencing the episode. But there'd still be that element of like, what the fuck is going on? You know,
Mm,
it's the unnervingness of it, which is really, it really speaks to it. It's almost like if anyone who is a fan of Uncanny, which is a fantastic show and radio podcast as well, it's great. It's almost like that levels of just being like, whoa.
it's it's great because we've already brought up the fact that they don't show the monster, but they play on social norms. Like we are a social species, and to have something where it's like, oh, you're copying me, you're not talking to me like a normal person, you're just repeating what I'm saying. And there's something unnerving about that to the point where you would be like the people in that space just being like, stop it, stop repeating after me, stop it, shut up. That really does grain on you, and it's oh yeah, 10 out of 10. Yeah, 100%
Yeah,
agree.
brilliant. Okay, that brings us on to um, by Rusty Davis, directed by Graham Harper. As I like to call it, the pilot for years and years, or as other people know it, Turn Left.
What another great episode where the social commentary in this not only like talked about and brought up horrors of the past and like bringing them back to a point where they're just so horrible. But the fact that those same horrors are now repeating, those same themes are now repeating in our modern day lives. This is this is when playing with like time and time travel and stories about history, and when you can sort of tell a story which, as much as we don't want it to be, ends up being timeless. There's something very powerful about that.
Well, that's the thing. This just goes to show that Russell, at the height of his powers, can be so tuned into the sort of zeitgeist, as it were, politically, that he can create something like this, which is terribly, unfortunately, so much more relevant now than when it aired. What, in 2008?
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
17, almost 17 years on from when this aired for the first time, and you look at the world now, not to drag us down, but Christ, this is, it's more relevant now than it ever has been. It's
yeah. It's even in 2025 when some of these atrocities can still happen. And as you say, it's not to bring things down, it's to cement just how good a story this is. And this is also to cement like, oh, yeah, that you thought you were getting a haha comedic companion the whole time. No, this is some of Catherine Tate's most phenomenal acting. My
yeah,
God, does she carry this episode? And everyone does, all the support. Like even like the mother who's been a bit of a bee at times. I mean,
yeah.
she is
So much.
still a bee in this, but it's like it's just everyone just reacting and just trying to survive. And oh, it's like the little hopes, those little moments of hope with like the other family that they live with, just to have that be taken away in the most horrible way. And they
Yeah.
they don't even have to say it directly what it is. You just know it. And that's what just makes it worse, especially with Wilf's reaction. Just,
Yeah, but it's also a knock-on effect of this being like, yes, it's a Doctor Light episode, it's a companion Light episode. The Doctor literally dies at the start of it, and then as the story goes on, we're led to believe that Sarah Jane has been killed,
mm, which
and then the torture crew as well. Like, it's leaving Earth completely like defenseless. Crazy.
it's, you know what else is great about this? Like we spend so much time watching Doctor Who, and we always know that for the most part, the Doctor's going to save the day. But for them to actually take a whole season, a whole 2 seasons worth of material, and go, no, hey, the adipose, ha ha ha, funny adipose, yeah, they kill millions of people, and then
In America
that,
this time,
yeah,
yeah.
in America this time, and because of that, yeah, Britain doesn't get the much needed funds they need, and it's just this continuous like downhill of just like constantly
Oh,
getting punched in the gut.
yeah, it's a constant like fucking curb stomp, isn't it? Like, it's like the way I liken it, it's a bit like that scene in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure where
Yeah.
they all kind of just start piling on and beating on this one guy on the floor. It's like that,
It's either that or it's that one scene in Gravity Falls where where Dippy
Yeah.
just gets punched in the stomach and it just oh
Um, uh, let me bring the tone down a second because I want to.
oh even more, yeah.
Yeah, so in a very poignant and serious episode, again, brilliant showcase for Catherine Tate. We also see Billy Piper come back into the fold properly with this episode as well, and just gives a brilliant performance. The team over at Doctor Who magazine, or not Doctor Who magazine, it was, believe it was Battles and Doctor Who Adventures, which is a kids like comic Doctor Who, how they go at the time. In the you could win a Doctor Who Uno game with a Dalek sort of holder thing there. Find Mr. Colasanto. Jolly Mr. Colasanto escaped the Labour camp and is hiding in our issue. Tell us which page he's on, and you could win the great Doctor Who Uno set. And there's a little picture of him saying, "Is good."
No. Oh my God, I thought the doctor stop slavery was one thing, but that
Yeah,
oh
they wanted to get children to help find this man who's escaped the Labour camps, which is to bring it back to the episode is another harrowing moment where that they're being sent to these camps, and Donald's like, what are you upset about? Because Wilf's saying it's happening again,
yeah.
and it's
That's what I mean. The fact that they they use so little in terms of words for that, like not giving away too much, and then it just hits you.
yeah,
Oh, and it's the fact that things get worse and worse. And I think Wilf being there as this way of hope is great. It's this episode, right, when we get the will you take those off? It's like, I will not, it's Christmas.
yeah,
Yeah, and, you get those.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure it's that because she gets given the hotel which gets her out of London from being
yeah,
blown up, which we forgot to bring up when we brought up the fun little moment of the thank you, Doctor, from the Queen.
yeah.
Um,
God rest her soul.
mm,
Like we've already said, this one is phenomenal. It sets it so much. It's got one of the best endings to a Doctor episode as well. It's the bit where the Doctor's sort of cutting on to this woman. What did she say? What was her name? What was her name? Like, and then she just said, "Bad Wolf." And it's
yeah,
and everywhere is Bad Wolf, you know. And then the Doctor ending it by going, "It's the end of the universe."
There's also
Oh,
I have to also just rewind it just a little bit because throughout the whole episode, where we just get random characters just being like, "There's something on your back."
and they've been saying it the whole series as well.
Yeah,
People have been
yeah.
saying, you know,
And I
it's
didn't realize that
so
until this
unsettling.
rewatch.
So unsettling as well, isn't it? You know, and Rose has been popping up through the series as well, different roles. There's a bit of Midnight where she appears on like a little TV screen, just going, "Doctor." It's the culmination. It's how Doctor Who in the modern show should be. And Russell, if you're going to start taking notes from your previous stuff, start taking notes from this, please. Just to throw some shade your way. This is, in my mind, another 10 out of 10 episode, personally.
Yeah, it is because this is not only was it a great reflection of the horrors of our history that are not to be repeated, but in this time and culture where we kind of need that reminding and how this still sort of sadly transcends that time. Yeah, just
Yeah,
just great.
absolutely. Yeah. I think it's in the way that we spoke about Midnight transcending the mold that is Doctor Who, becoming something greater than it. This is another one that does that entirely. That brings us on to The Stolen Earth by Russell Davis and Graham Harper. This is almost a Dr. Donna-light episode. Like, they have a few little scenes in it, but they're sort of like the B plot, you know? And
Yeah.
I say that there are lots of plots in this. Because this is your Avengers Infinity War
Yes,
before
it is.
Infinity War, yeah. In the sense that Journey's End, you know, the two-parter of this, Journey's End is the end game. Before, you know, this is what it is before we have that, you know,
It's-
of them bringing all the toys together. We get Sarah Jane in this, we get the Torchwood team as well. Frankly, one of the best scenes in all Doctor Who, and I've spoken about it before as well on the podcast.
Oh, you speak it.
Oh,
Come on,
the
mate.
bit
I know
where
you want to.
where they're all realizing, you know, what's happened, that, you know, they've been taken somewhere else and they're confused by it, and they start realizing these ships coming towards the Earth and they're hailing them.
Receiving a communication from the Earthbound ships. They have a message for the human race.
Put it through. Let's hear it.
Exterminate! 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 Exterminate!
No.
It's look, I'll shit on John Barrowman until the cows come home. I will, but his performance in that moment,
Oh, he's great as well in that.
more so Elizabeth Sladen, you know, because them and Free Radgerman as well as Martha, all of them in that moment, just really hammering home. It breaks my heart thinking about it now, you know, again as a father now watching it, because Sarah Jane's there with her son, with Luke, and you're so young.
Oh, yeah.
Her just like, you know, it's just she's almost denying that it's them coming to it's the Daleks, it's the boogeyman, it's the worst possible thing, because there is no reasoning for Dalek. It is it. You know, and there are hordes of them coming to the Earth, and they're fucked. You know, the Jack says that I'm sorry, we're dead. You know, it's again, it's one of the best scenes in all Doctor Who, because it just hammers home, and the acting of it is just so awe-inspiring. Really,
Everyone gives it their all for them to have these connections. And again, this was the height of Doctor Who. Not only were we building up with this, but to have like 2 spin-off shows, one for like, you know, younger audiences and one for more adult audiences, but for them to still tie into this and still be this massive, hell yeah, the Daleks. Oh, we're fucked. No, we're just fucked, you know. That's smoke them if you got them.
Do you know what? This is Doctor Who as event TV at its peak, and it has never reached this since. Like, yes, you could argue the 50th and stuff was big for people, but in terms of the UK, this is where it was at its highest in terms of popularity, in terms of everybody tuning in. I remember the cliffhanger at the end of The Stolen Earth, where obviously the Dalek shoots the Doctor. We know at this point Rusty Davis is leaving the show. We know David is leaving. We think, wait, what? Could we be getting this happening early? Could we be getting the new Doctor in the next episode? We just didn't know it. So I remember that whole week just being like, what the fuck is going on? Like, and I remember a lot of people having that conversation, because Doctor Who was something which even casual viewers watched, but at that point,
Yeah.
it was massive, So, yeah, God.
Oh, no, I think everyone tuned in because, oh my God, I sound like such an old man saying this. Like, back in my day, we didn't have all these streaming services. You just have to watch what was on TV.
Oh, we had iPlayer. We had iPlayer by this point, definitely, but still.
Yeah, but like, honestly though, who was really using a lot of streaming services back then? It was
No, they didn't.
mostly
They didn't
TV.
exist, did they? They just didn't
No,
exist back then. No.
yeah, like aside from iPlayer, but it's like you tuned into what was on TV and you knew what Doctor Who was at this point. You couldn't escape it from the Toys R Us aisle. You couldn't escape that mad employee named Jack who was like hiding behind the David Tennant like standout. But
Oh yeah, what?
that's all I can imagine is just this like person behind the shelves, just this shadowy figure, and it's just Jack's glasses just hovering by, just watching people go to the Doctor Who aisle. Sorry, a bit of a
That was
tangent there.
it. That's what I did. That's exactly what I did. Yeah, it's true. I was like, "No, get away! They're my Dalek toys. Get away!" And I do that now actually as well. No, Robin, get away! It's my Dalek. Mine.
There's some great moments. There's that moment as well where the Doctor sees Rose again. That joy, that run into each other. The Dalek just turns the corner, and it's just like, oh, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? And when he gets hit, you're just like, fuck, because that's the stinger, isn't it, for Stolen Earth, isn't it?
That's the thing. They
Yeah.
left the whole week thinking, "What the fuck is going on?" And it's. So what I think is great about it as well is that we also, yes, we have Dalek Khan come back and we have a new Supreme Dalek, and by this point I've seen, when this first came out, by this point I've seen Genesis of the Daleks, and
You've seen it. Yeah,
I've seen that. I've seen Davros's first appearance. I'm a big Davros fan by this point as well, because I've seen all the ones classic series. So when he came back in this, I was like, yes. I do. I love Davros as a character. I think he works as such in the same way as the Master can be seen as another side of the coin as the Doctor, Davros can as well. I think it's such a brilliant, inclusion having him here, and it's more of a sense of being a bit of fan service in a way, because he's there and being, he's basically the Dalek's pet, is what the Doctor said.
yeah.
But it's you get all that beautiful imagery, the idea of like the Nightmare Child, the gates of Elysium, and it's. Oh, the Doctor has that one brilliant bit as well. Like, there's so many bits. Harriet Jones as well. Her whole idea through this as well. She speaks about I think it's the Mr. Copper Foundation, which is obviously the Mr. Copper Foundation is related to Mr. Copper, who was from the Voyage of the Damned. So,
I forgot that.
Yeah, and then obviously, we get everyone doing the, Harriet Jones, former Prime Minister. Yes, we know who you are, and then even the Daleks as well.
Yeah,
Oh.
that completes the joke. That's the punchline, and we're like, yeah,
exactly,
that's great.
Harriet Jones, former Prime Minister. Yes, we know who you are. Poetry.
You won't shut up about it.
I'm actually a massive fan. Would you sign my yearbook?
Yearbook. I thought you were going to go with like T-shirt or something.
Would you sign my Dalek tits?
We're a very mature podcast here,
Whether
folks.
actually Eric be.
It's we'll also know
Yeah.
it's very late
Oh,
here, folks, and we've got like another hour of this to record. So
yeah, oh, but there's great moments again as well. The Doctor, oh, after all this time, Davros, I've only got one thing to say to you. Bye. oh God! I just remembered one of the other really funny jokes in it. When they're all meeting up on the Subwave network, and it's like connecting to everyone that knows the Doctor. And obviously, there's characters missing that should be there, but neither here nor there. But they have a bit where they where Rose is like, "Does this not have a webcam?"
yeah, yeah.
She wouldn't let me get one. She said they're naughty. Like, oh, it's so good, so good.
Now,
Obviously, we get everything in. We've basically covered just the Stolen Earth there, but Journey's End. Ow, I think Journey's End is one of those things that really works despite everything that is in it, because it's very much. I think it signals Russell's downward spiral with endings that we
mhm.
get with some things, but in the sense that this is Russell literally he sits down at a lovely Italian restaurant. He orders a very fine rigatoni or some spaghetti or linguine dish, and he goes, "Oh, very nice." He promptly picks up the bowl and chucks it at the wall and sees what sticks.
I'm glad you brought that all up because this definitely does set a precedent for what he ends up doing with future finales, where he goes, okay, let's bring back a classic villain. Let's have it be this really big, like impending doom, if not like genocide situation. And then for it to sort of just be almost comically defeated and sort of just takes away from that like ending. Like it's a shame because I really, really love part one. And I do feel like part two, when Donna Nova becomes so intelligent that she's able to solve things,
Even before that, the Meta Crisis Doctor as well feels like such an asshole,
yeah, that it doesn't feel deserved. I mean, we've had Chekhov's hand this entire time, but it's it just doesn't feel deserved. It really doesn't.
Oh, you just made me think of the Family Guy joke of like, is it something Dark Side when Chris as Luke comes down the tube and he's like, "Hey, you see my hand? There's a worker there," and you can see your hand like out around his junk. He's like, "Nope,
Nope.
nope, nope." Oh gosh, it's one of those ones, isn't it? So I feel like it's the end game of Doctor Who, isn't it? In terms of things, and I think it has some of the similar sort of sins that Endgame, sort of, has as well. And that we sort of jump through hoops to bring all the characters together, which are totally set up there, and then it is one of those ones where it's like, yeah, I can't say I'm a big fan of the Dr. Donna. Really, I'm definitely not a big fan of the Meta Crisis Doctor. So it feels like it's just done in a way to be like, oh, I don't want to repeat Doomsday, and there's no real reason why the Doctor wouldn't sort of keep Rose, with him at this point.
Mm.
So here you go. Here's your David Tennant. Don't worry, Donna. You're gonna get yours in a few years. Like Martha's still waiting for hers. She's like, "Where the fuck's my David Tennant? Like, come on."
I've been asking for the whole season. Can't I not? No? Oh, okay,
No,
fine.
okay, no. No, she gets Mickey Smith, which
Oh no!
yeah,
Oh, that's the biggest one of the biggest crimes of Doctor Who. I tell you what.
straight up, isn't
Oh,
it? Look,
so
if we're gonna consider them together, because it is, there are some good moments, like Davros has some great stuff. There's good stuff with Wilf, and obviously I may not be a fan of the Doctor Donna, but I'm a fan of his ending.
Yes, I
Because
think
it's
that's really
so
important.
yeah, it's so iconic that you know, and it's so iconic. You look at people using it as gifts all the time of the 10th Doctor soaking wet in the rain there. And I remember it absolutely breaking me. Sarah Jane goes off to go with her family. Jack goes back to go with the Torchwood crew. Mickey and Martha go off into the sunset, even though Martha's engaged to another guy. But anyway, Donna's left there with her family. The Doctor has that great moment where he's like, she's back as she was. She's um, I think he says something like, I can't remember what it is, but Sylvia's like, no, she's always been brilliant. And he's like, well, maybe you should tell her that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. Oh, yeah, because she becomes a lot more likable in most recent years, Donna's mum. And after a whole season of just seeing the Doctor just have a really good mate, like a best friend, and to just have that taken from them, it's so heartbreaking, and I know some people are kind of like, they just rather it be that and just have it be that sad note. I'm really glad that we get that little bit later for his finale where he gives them the winning lottery ticket at the wedding.
Yeah.
And I'm also really glad that we did all these years later come back to them. We kind of
Yeah.
had them reunite, and I'm happy with that. I'm so
I am
grateful
too.
for that.
I
As like,
remember thinking about this when we did the Star Beast way back. I remember us saying that there, and I think it doesn't take away what happens here, the tragedy
God
behind it as
no.
well. I still remember. I cried at that moment when the Doctor comes into the TARDIS, dejected, soaked in rain. After the Wilf's just said, I'll look out every night for her. And the Doctor said,
Mm,
thank you. He seems so distant, and deep in loneliness and heartbroken. And I remember just being like, this is our hero, and this is his reward for all that. All his friends have gone off, and he's here left by himself. I just remember thinking, God, and it really hurting at the time there. Funny enough, Robin, this episode, there's an alternate ending to it actually.
oh.
Nothing much. It's just, and it was the original ending to the episode because they were setting up um, the Christmas special, right? After saying goodbye to Wilf, the Doctor would get a strange signal on the scanner, launching into his what? And then two Cybermen would just appear behind him in the TARDIS, and that's the cliffhanger. I am
What?
so fucking glad they changed that.
Yeah, no, that's not after that. You need to have that emotional weight still stick, and have something like that would have taken away for it. I never knew that actually. That's really
Yeah, it's on the
interesting.
DVD. You should check it out sometime.
Yeah.
It's not great, and I don't think it should have done that. But anyway, yeah, it's yeah. I think I'm looking back at it now because I did it. I initially rated the Stolen Earth as a 9 and Journey's End as a 7.
Mm.
So I guess I'll combine them and say an 8.5. Just to be, because I think it is strength wise, it's really good. It's just that the wheels always come off a little bit in Journey's End, don't they? It doesn't shit the bed like Empire of Death, but
No, no. That's where he should have like gone back and looked at his previous stuff and avoided that. But hey, that's there and then. I think Stone Enough, yeah, I would agree is like an 8. I'd say Journey's End for me is like a 7. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna round it up to an 8 because I still look so fondly at that first parter. I still think that is so good with bringing everyone together, and there's still the emotional weight of the finale. I think manages to leave you remembering the good parts of the story over the kind of the slapdash sort of quickness to resolving the situation. So I'm going to say in total an 8 out of 10.
Okay, lovely. Okay. And that finishes up series 4 for us, Robin. But we still have an episode from 2008 to cover. That being the one that aired on the 25th of December, Christmas Day that year, The Next Doctor, written by Rusty Davis and Andy Goddard. The first of the David Tennant specials, as you were, which was we were told at the time that Russell was going to not do another series, but they were going to finish off the 10th Doctor Zero with a series of specials, which would air through from Christmas all the way to the next Christmas and New Year's Day. So that's where we're going from here. The first of those specials, The Next Doctor, written by Rusty Davis, directed by Andy Goddard. I remember thinking at the time that, we're not getting Doctor Who as a series this year, but actually really liking it at the time because the way they spread it out. And because we had Next Doctor here, the episode after this, Planet of the Dead, was at Easter. Officially now well, I don't know if you could. I don't know if you'd argue it was the worst Easter special yet, or
We'll get to that. Yeah,
yeah. Okay, so Next Doctor. This is one again which gets a lot of hate, right? A lot of hate. I really enjoy this one.
Okay, yeah. Why does it get a lot of hate?
I'm not sure personally, but I think it's a lot. It's one of those ones which people are just like, it doesn't amount to much. And I think it's a fun run around. It's a Dickens Christmas, isn't it? In a way, we have David Morrissey coming as, I don't think anyone ever thought he actually was going to be the next Doctor, but it was sort of like,
no.
It was a funny one, wasn't it? Because he does come in and he does a great job, but
It's interesting because this was my first introduction to David Morrissey as well, before he would eventually go on to play the governor in The Walking Dead and just be so different in that. But oh my God, yeah, there we go. Just a little bit of a fact there for you. I
sure.
Back when I first watched this, I think this was during my big steampunk phase. I had a massive steampunk phase where I wore like the goggles around my neck and everything, and to see the giant mechanical Cyberman in London, that I loved that.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, I
it's
love that Cyber King. I do. It's so funny, and yes, you could argue, why do people not remember it? But hey, it's Doctor Who. It's a bit of fun. It's Christmas, and we let things go at Christmas. I think the design of something like the Cyber Shades, which are the
yeah.
sort of like punk Cyberman head with the black cloak. I think they're really cool.
They are like the way they move and shamble, and they're like they have a rope attached to one and it's like dragging them across. Like that's a good chase. I really love that chase.
I do think it's one of those ones though where it's like the Cybermen, although were the villain, it's really Miss Hartigan who is the real villain of this episode, but then she's manipulated by the Cybermen in a way, and it's a tough one, and it's so poignant for me as a father now, actually, looking back on this, because this man, Jackson Lake, has his life destroyed. Like, his wife is killed by the Cybermen, and they kidnap his son, and he loses himself then. And that bit, rewatching it since I've had my kids, that bit where it finally all clicks back in, and he realizes his son's like up there on the raft. It's like, Doctor, that's like when I rewatched it, I bawled my eyes out of that bit because it was so poignant and so true. I felt as well, because he's lost everything, but he's finds his son there, and I really like it. I think it's a fun Christmas episode. It gets a lot of hate. I don't know why. It's like a 6 out of 10 for me, really. It's nothing terrible,
No, exactly. I think there's enough to enjoy with this. I think it's got the the joyous aspects, which is what I look for in Doctor Who Christmas specials, and the setting. There's something warm and cozy about having a nice winter sort of Dickens setting, and it's like, oh, it's lovely. It's lovely. It's just want to put your feet up with your hot cocoa and just.
The Doctor goes full action hero in it by the end as well, which is kind of fun. He when he raises up in the balloon,
Yeah,
Jackson's TARDIS, and he has the weird sort of thing. It's a bit of fun, isn't it?
I
People
I,
take
I
it too
like the I do like the Cyberman cockpit as well for the giant robot. It reminds me
Yeah,
very much of like a
the
Megazord.
Megazord.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what I was going for.
Oh yeah.
Ah,
Okay. Let's move on to what
oh,
was then the 2009.
7 out of 10 before we move
Oh,
on.
sorry,
Yep,
Robin. Sorry.
that's all right. We're getting carried away. We carry on.
Move on to the 2009 Easter special, airing on the 11th of April 2009. I remember being so hyped for this because it'd be like, oh, it's an Easter special of Doctor Who, and we're not getting a series, but I'm getting this one. Written by Rusty Davis, just Rusty Davis, no one else was involved in writing this episode. Directed by James Strong, and introduces the one-off companion, Lady Christina D'Souza.
Why do you say that, Jack? Hmm? What?
I fucking hate Lady Christina D'Souza. Jesus
Really?
Christ. Oh my god. In terms of an episode, she's all right. She's also kind of insufferable, and they shove her into way too much Big Finish stuff now. My god. I didn't need Once and Future an episode where she met the Sixth Doctor and Jackie Tyler. I didn't need that, you know?
Yeah, it's I as a character, she's a white. Like it is interesting the fact that she's like this cat burglar and the like. But I feel like she was kind of in the wrong story. Like, yes, they bring it back for when she has to get the thing at the bottom of the tunnel at the end. But it's weird because this episode is kind of all over the place. And it's weird because it takes a lot of liberties from the 1965 classic Flight of the Phoenix, with like the bus being trapped in the sand and him trying to get it out. And you think, oh, okay, this is going to be the plot of the story. But it's not. And it's very weird because you have all the stuff with like back on Earth with them trying to sort of work out what's up with the sort of
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you have
portal.
Lee Evans in this one,
Yeah,
don't you? Yeah,
Lee Evans is
Malcolm.
great.
Oh, he's great.
He's
Oh,
one of my
he plays this Welshman like officer for unit. Oh, he's great.
he's one of my favorite comedians, especially back then when he was like the height of his popularity. And I've always been like, fuck, I want him to come back. But he never did, sadly. And I get why, but it's there's a lot of stuff that happens. And this
Yeah.
episode is called
Hey,
Planet of the Dead. That
uh-huh.
is such a great title. That's such
It's a
a
very Doctor Who title of the
mm,
dead, of death, of something else, isn't it? It's very much, yeah. It's I don't know. It's a tough one, isn't it? Because it's just I don't know. It's a bit of a mess structurally, personally. It's just yeah, we have Carmen in it as well, who sort of sets up the whole is weirdly clairvoyant, weirdly has powers somehow. She's always known stuff, and she's the one that tells the doctor, like, no, your song is ending soon, repeating what um, you know, um Ood Sigma said to him, and saying it is returning, it's returning from the dark, and then Doctor, but then he will knock 4 times.
yeah. Oh, yeah, we do get it in this episode, don't we?
Yeah, I remember that, losing my shit at that, because that line is so ominous, so terrifying. Frankly, the best part of the episode, because I mean, look, yeah, it's kind of cute that the bus number is 200 when it's Doctor Who story 200 on TV, but beyond that, I don't. There's not an awful lot I get from this one, if I'm honest, Robin. Lee Evans is
No.
fun. Yeah, it's so I gave this story, despite those bits I like in it. It's my lowest rating today. It's a 3 out of 10.
Mm. There's It's very weird. It feels almost as if there were multiple writers for this one who all wanted to
Oh, well,
add different things. And it's a shame because I don't, you know me, I love practical effects, but I don't think the fly people are interesting. I don't think they add anything. I think the manta ray creatures are just okay. I feel like if it was just a story of them trapped in a
no, Robin.
desert.
The stingrays. The stingrays. The stingrays. Stingrays.
Thank you. God damn, that's such a good series. But I feel like this had the potential of being like another isolated story, and you could still have cut back to Earth, but it's weird how it's all over the place, and a lot of the characters don't quite work. There's a lot of tonal differences with certain characters, and it's great that we got an Easter special, but am I right in thinking this was the only Easter special we ever gotten?
Well, yeah, until Legend of the Sea Devils. So
Ah, yeah, no, that's true.
I will say, this is the first episode of the new series to be filmed in and broadcast in HD. So,
Yeah, no, there's that
that's
as
all right.
well.
Groundbreaking because of that. But no, it's not great. 3 out of 10 I gave it. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd give it like a 4 out of 10. It's not something I'd watch again. It's just a bit of a
More, much more generous than I tell you that now.
mm,
Um, hey Robin, you like
mm,
good Doctor Who?
yeah, yeah.
How about the fucking Waters of Mars by Rusty Davis slash Phil Ford, directed by Graham Harper.
Okay, so before we start this, when I first watched this, I remembered it being really good, but for some reason it didn't stick in my head. And so when I came back to this episode, I don't know why, because I had season 4 on DVD and I watched the hell out of it, but I didn't have the specials on DVD.
Ah.
And like
You
when it came,
fool!
I know. So when I came back to this episode had been completely scrubbed from my mind. And that's why coming back to this, not only did this feel like a lost episode to me that I'd managed to find up in my attic and bring to the BBC and we're bringing it back, but my God, I think this is one of my new sort of top 10 favorite Doctor Who episodes. Like coming back to this, rewatching it and going, oh my God, this works on so many great levels from the setting to the characters. This is a Doctor Who story where the side characters aren't annoying. They're not characters who you forget. They all feel so important, and it's because we're told at the beginning, hey, these people are gonna die. They're going to all die. That is in the history books, and it's
So interesting to because we've just had the previous series we had the fixed point of the eruption of Mount Vesuvius and what happened to Pompeii. We now have a fixed point in our future, so a fictional event there. So it's interesting to see
Mm.
how that's played with. The supporting cast are all fantastic in it. And by the way, I want to say as well, I forgot to mention back at Planet of the Dead. There we get a future A-lister in Daniel Kaluuya appearing as a
Oh,
you know.
damn! Yeah, he did, didn't he?
Yeah, we have Gemma
Oh,
Chan in this one. Who goes on to be if nothing else, Cersei in the Eternals. So
yeah, and Lindsay Duncan in this. My
Lynn,
God, if there
God,
was a fighting position for a companion, who would be a great companion? Someone who could stand toe to toe with the Doctor and like put them in their place. Like, oh, she is phenomenal in this. They
She
all
is
are.
she's the greatest like one-off companion she is in
Mm.
this. Honestly, she's not only is she fantastic, we have the whole idea behind it, that the most annoying thing about this episode is bloody is the bloody gadget like bloody robot, and even that's fine, really.
See, I don't mind Gadget because I feel like it's just kind of there, but it doesn't take away from the fact that these monster designs, my God,
Oh
are
yeah,
they?
the flood.
It's
Oh, but
such a
terrifying.
it's such a simple idea, and it's again taken a concept of what can we make scary? We made shadows scary. Can we make water scary? And it's
Yes, we
like,
can.
mm, and it's like, we're jumping a bit, but it's like later on with that one girl who's sort of trapped in that room as the water's flowing in, and she's just screaming, and she does her little voice message, and it's that is
That,
heartbreaking.
that is like, yes, you also and there's we have Adelaide's backstory as well, like where she's a little girl, and it plays into the events of the Stolen Earth, where the Dalek, Dalek goes up in the sky, and it looks at her, and it just flies away. Like, if nothing else, recognizing, realizing, oh wait, hang on a second, fixed point, better fuck off.
I That's actually the one part of the story I really don't like. I feel
But
like,
no, man. That speaks to the severity. Even the Dalek is like, no, we need to back off here. So when the Doctor is the one to be like, I'm breaking the rules, the laws are mine to rewrite. I'm the Time Lord Victorious. Like,
when he does Victorious, and it's like, oh boy.
yeah, you
Mm.
see that anger, the hubris, the want for, if nothing else, he's denying his end. He's saying, I don't want to die. If I can do this, I can change the odds. I can, the laws are mine to be what I'm the winner. Is what he says. He says about, he's horrible. He says like, saved a few little people along the way as well, and it's like, oh. And of course, then it still ends with Adelaide, choosing to take her own life to revert the changes that the Doctor made the timeline, which is,
Well, that and Doctor Who as well. That is wow. I mean, even with it like off screen, it's still heavily implied, and it's just like for them to have done that is, and I feel like it's such a sensitive subject, but I felt like they handled it as best as they could within the context of the episode.
because
And
it's a tough one, isn't it? Because I think
mm,
that trigger warning now, everybody, for it, but it's one of those ones where it's like you never want it to be seen as being like a self sacrifice thing, like in the sense that the act itself is, doing a good thing. It's not that, but it's very tough, and I don't know that I'm the person to speak about it.
it's a
Particularly,
tough conversation, definitely. But
it's yeah, I'd hope that nowadays, stuff that Blue Yonder shows not, but I would hope that if this aired today, it would have like a trigger warning with it because
mm,
yeah.
I feel like
But,
that would be needed.
but then, of course, obviously, it then ties into the end, coming to you know this sets up the end of time so perfectly because the Doctor just looks and he sees Ood Sigma standing there in the snow, and he's just no, and he runs. Not the first time the Doctor's run away from something,
No,
but
no. 9 out of 10.
yeah, same. It's one of those ones where it's like I think at the time I was like, when we get into End of Time, I was like, oh, I kind of was hoping to see what this darker Doctor would be. We see that a bit in the Time Lord of Victorians event. The comics and the audios and the books which come after this. Is its own little event which happens. But I remember thinking when we got into End of Time, oh, I wish I'd seen more of that Dark Doctor. Actually, in my head, it makes sense why we don't. It's why we still see him as the 10th Doctor in that moment there, because this happens at the end of this episode, and he's instantly proved his idea of the time victorious is wrong. And he's like, okay, yeah, no, and moves on for it. So it's, yeah. And that comes on to our final 2 episodes, the end of the 10th Doctor. What has it got there? No, we're not talking about Dreamland. No, Wiki, we're not talking about Dreamland. No. We're not doing that.
Unfortunately, folks, I have not done my homework for that, and I could not convince Jack, kicking and screaming, to rewatch the masterpiece, as it were.
No. So the next episode is actually the End of Time, part 1 and part 2, written by Rusty Davis, directed by Euros Lynn. Moffat has a credit in as well. She's done a little bit there. And this aired, Robin, 2 weeks back to back, the 25th of December 2009 and the 1st of January 2010. I cannot tell you the tears that I shed over this story. And have subsequent times having watched this. My God. There's moments in this where it's the absolute best of Doctor Who. Most of them in part 2, if I'm going to be honest.
Oh, yeah, no, part 2 completely. Like, I know where you're going, and part 2 is phenomenal. But part 1,
Part 1 is a rough ride, isn't it?
it's a mixture of both too fast-paced and too slow-paced. Like, when they're doing the massive exposition dump with, like, the followers of the Master, it's like that just feels like really like forced and felt really clumsy. Um, like I understand the story needs to move forward, but it just felt like such whiplash compared to like the rest of the pace of the two-parters. It's just that beginning where it's just so
I think
quick.
there's some really good moments in it. Like, there's some really lovely bits. Like, I really love the bit when everything with the Master, beyond the bullshit hokey way he's brought back. I like all that stuff. The Master, even though even when he's running around the building site, I'm so hungry, and all that stuff. Like he knocks. They realize the Doctor's there, and he knocks the drum 1, 2, 3 times.
And it's
like,
that pause.
No, I remember. I think actually this. Remember finding out that the Master was going to come back in this because of like a snippet they showed at like San Diego Comic-Con.
Ooh.
I mean,
Okay,
like, wait,
okay.
what? So yeah, it's one of those ones. I think it's great that it gives us the Doctor and Wilf all the way through this. It's great to have Wilf as sort of a companion going through, particularly in part 2, where the scene. I say this term too much. I say it too much tonight. The scene where they're on the spaceship looking down at the Earth, and when he says, all them, my wife's buried down there. Is she changed too? Like in her grave? The Doctor I'm so sorry. Oh, and even down to him being like, because the Master makes a jab at him, like, what, you and your dad, earlier in the episode, and then the Doctor saying, I'd be proud of you and my dad.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that made me cry up so much during my rewatch of this because there's so many little nuggets of that. Like you remember the finale, you remember that big speech, but for those little things before, for Wilf to have his dream of being up in the stars only for it to be because of something so harrowing going on down on Earth. It's so poignant
Yeah.
and
I'm like, look, I'll skip. I feel like we could probably do a deep dive whole episode on part 1 and part 2 of this, but I remember that Christmas Day not wanting to go into the one on New Year's Day because it meant the end of my Doctor. But it comes together in a really beautiful way. It really does, I think, and there's some great parts of it. Even down to Wilf being like, just take the gun, and the Doctor's like, no, no. And then the second the Master's like, I'm bringing Gallifrey back, he's like instantly grabs for the gun. It's like, because we've always heard the Doctor speak of how grand and amazing the Time Lords were. For him in that moment, be like, no, I have to stop this because of what they became. It's like, John Sim's great in it as well. Timothy Dalton coming in as Rassilon as well. The woman. I want to hear your theory on the woman, Robin. Especially years later now.
See, I'm just trying to remember if I actually wrote a note about that on my little phony phone, but
Shall I tell you what I always thought it was?
What was that?
I always thought it was the Doctor's mother, personally.
Hmm.
Which obviously is now kind of thrown out of whack because of certain shit. And I'm not thinking it's Tecteun. Not fucking thinking that for a start, because that's for child abuse and shit. I'm not having that be that, but still, yeah. It's yeah.
You know what? No, I've found my note, and yeah, I think I had this conversation with my missus, and I think we both were saying like, is that meant to be the Doctor's mum? Because that is definitely a very interesting theory, like this idea to bring back this key figure. Because has she been back in Big Finish or anything like that,
Oh god,
or
no, absolutely
no?
not.
No, I was just generally curious about that.
It's one of those that's just sort of left there. It's just it's yeah, it's a good one. I think part 2 is definitely way better. Obviously, I think the end of it very viscerally, so much so that even, the Doctor Who proms last year when they played Vale Decayum, that still gets me. It still gets me. It's that moment where it swells. I don't want to go.
Mm.
Oh, it just breaks me every time I listen to it. And so even time I watch it, even though it goes on, and I think some people argue that the 10th Doctor sort of, or Russell sort of sabotages Moffat going forward. I don't see that personally. I think it makes sense for the 10th Doctor who he is. He does mean the 10th Doctor to not want to change, to not want to go. And I think it is one of those ones, and it's not like the 11th Doctor comes in and like kills the 10th Doctor or something. It's just what it is. Yeah, and then I think one of the crowning points of it and showing that Russell can sometimes do anything very well is showing that the one who knocks 4 times is Wilf.
Ah, that is, it's so heartbreaking because there's a wonderful line earlier as well about when Wilf is saying like, oh, he's going to die too one day, and the Doctor's just like,
Yeah.
no, just no, don't. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, and that hits so much harder now with his passing now, bless
Yeah.
him. Oh, but the fact that the payoff for the four knocks is him. And of course, the Doctor's going to do the right thing. No, we all
Yeah.
love Wilf, and
He says it though. He's like, no, Wilf, it was my honor. Like, oh, that, and just so, and obviously he then has the longest fucking death. Holding off the generation, so many things. We'll get back into that later, Robin. But I love that he gets to have that moment where you mentioned it earlier as well, where he's like, "Oh no," Donald's like, "What? Someone sent a lottery ticket?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, no, I went back in time and borrowed a quid off a man called Jeff Noble, Oh, it's getting me now. You know,
Oh.
like, oh, and he got the winning lottery money for her with that. And it's like, oh, absolutely heartbreaking. Like the image again of Wilf just saluting him just while crying, and and then he goes, and it turns into a little, just a kiss that he sort of does as well. It's just just stunning TV and Doctor Who, genuinely. You know,
It's I one thing that we were laughing about this before we recorded, and I was sorry, I was laughing to myself because I was just looking up on my notes from the episodes, a few too many to bring up in our video tonight, but there's just one moment that in part what I had to point out was one of the old ladies in the bus had a career-defining moment where she got to squeeze David Tennant's bottom.
yeah,
And it's just
yeah,
it's just like, yep,
lovely.
to be in her
Great.
place, but
Yeah, I know, right? Oh, it's really lovely. We get so many lovely little moments of, like coming back through as well. It's we have the 10th Doctor's sort of like farewell tour, and it's lovely, all these different bits. But and then obviously it ends up with us having the regeneration at the end of it, and we meet Matt Smith finally, which is great too. It ends into that new era. In my head, part one does drag it down a bit, Robin. I'm not gonna
it
lie.
does.
Because if I was rating them separately, I would give part one like a 6, and I'd give part two like a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd agree with the 6 for part one, and I'd say part two is like a really high 8, 8.5, which is why
Okay,
combining them, mm,
it's tough, isn't it?
it's
This is where the format, or our own self-imposed format, always falls down. I'd say yes, maybe if we're going to do it, should we just say like collectively it's a 7 out of 10?
yeah,
Because,
it's again, it's not going to take away from that part two. That part two is stellar.
oh yeah, no,
Absolutely. It's just that part one, just the pacing of it just really does bring it down. But at least we still remember it fondly from the part two, which if you're going
yeah,
to end it on a high note, you end it on a damn good high note with him being able to say his goodbyes and the like. Um, yeah, no, just and overall, season four is still up there as my favorite, absolute favorite Doctor Who season. And maybe it will get dethroned when I eventually rewatch all of Modern Who and remind my goldfish memory on other episodes that I've forgotten or other seasons I don't remember so familiar. But season four is always going to have a special place in my heart. This crown jewel, this curtain call for the height of Doctor Who, its height of popularity, its Infinity War endgame situation, its send off to David Tennant. And I think the majority of what we got was just nearly just all perfect.
there's a reason when I think back on it, it's my comfort era of Doctor Who. Like I wouldn't say it's my favorite anymore. I would say
Sure.
the Moffat era is my favorite as a whole. But this is when I think of Doctor Who at the height of its powers, maybe when I enjoyed it the most, I'd say, potentially this era, this part there. And again, although the 10th Doctor may not be my favorite Doctor anymore, I'd say more it's the 12th Doctor. He's still my Doctor. He still has a massive place in my heart, and I will still tune in for 10th Doctor stories all the time. Hell, I think I've picked up everything he's done at Big Finish because the guy.
Mm.
But yeah. Well, I tell you what, let's end up now by heading over. It's getting very late. Let's head on over and see what the listeners have said in our time space telegraphs. We've got a few long ones today, and it's already getting quite late. We've done an awful lot of work here, so I'm going to try and do them as best I can. Okay, so we asked over on all our socials and in Discord servers. Help us make the podcast. Join us on episode 63, where we'll be reviewing a staggering number of episodes, 20 of them, again, Robin, and covering the
Oof.
end of the RTD era in a retrospective. RTD 1, I should say, actually, there. And they said, drop your thoughts and opinions. We had a lovely, massive load of responses here from Drew over on Twitter. Just, as terrible as Twitter is, it's lovely because we had some wonderful stuff from Drew here. Drew at Bobbins_H. So, Series 4. In some ways, the height of my obsessive fandom, and in other ways, where I learned I'd never get what I want out of RTD. No matter what promising material comes beforehand. It's a mixed feeling for me, you understand. Tennant and Tate are marvellous throughout, and the back end of the series may still be the best run of consistently brilliant episode that Who has done yet. Unicorn, the Wasp, through to Stolen Earth's superb run. Oh, okay, interesting. So slightly different terminology.
Yeah,
Run.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm honestly less fond of the first half of the series, the lead pair carrying some weaker stories and big emotional moments, covering some fairly sketchy supported character work. Looking at you, Fires of Pompeii. Oh, interesting. Okay. For every part of the Ood, lovely stuff, there's a rubbish story about some Centaurans with disco lights. And I'm avoiding the Doctor's daughter. That's rude when it's our namesake. As it feels, it looks cheap, and I'm honestly glad the series hasn't gone near the character again since. But the back end, though, sorry, I'm trying to say that without laughing. It's late, everyone. But the back end, though, the library story is my fave, but they're all super strong. Sadly for me, the finale rather lets everything down and is honestly pretty poor. And my hoped for Dr. Davros confrontation wouldn't be realised until season 9, 5 years later. Is it fair to judge an episode for failing or to deliver what I hoped for? Maybe not, but what we did get wasn't great either. Thematically, the series was strong, and parallels to Series 1 were fantastic, fascinating, but the finale didn't deliver on any of it in a way that satisfies. To be honest, I'm still frustrated by what could have been in the hands of a writer more disposed to producing strong plot resolutions. When it comes to the specials, Walter Mars stands out as a frankly superb piece of writing, casting, and performance. There are moments I like less. The Dalek who left Adelaide alone because she could be involved in a future fixed point. When the Doctor had been successful, there would have been no future. Sorry, if the Daleks had been successful, there would be no future in this. This is a particularly RTD-ish bit of sloppy logic, but it's a great overall. I mean, yeah, I know you're speaking that to yourself as well, but
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that.
sadly, the next Doctor decides that the void, rather than having no up, down, light, or times of fact, kind of a shopping mall where the Cybermen can steal Dalek tech at will, a typical narrative shortcut from Russell. It's honestly just poor. The story he takes that shortcut to tell isn't too bad, but in my corner it sucks. Planet of the Dead to me is complete crap and features another of RT's era's worst habits: the alien head on a boiler suit. Add that to the sudden conservative turn in favour
Yeah.
of the yeah, no doubt influenced by Robert's co-writing. We don't speak about him, and it's fit for the bin, in my opinion. Agreed. In fact, the finale, as much as the bonkers, I quite like the finale, I should say. As much as the bonkers master is kind of irritating, there's a lot there, and it's interesting structurally. It delivers on its premise in a way that Journey's End just doesn't. Overall, then, I would say Series 4 is inconsistent, but at its best is amongst the greatest Who we've ever had. The 18 episodes, that's really only 3 that are outright rubbish, and that's a very good return. It's not in my top series. That would be 7, 8, and 9, with 5, 6, 10, and Flux so close behind as to be admiring the asses of the series in front. But I think Series 4 and Series 1 represent the best RTD one and still mostly stand up years later. Very nice. And thank you so much, Drew, for all that as well.
Yeah, thank you, Drew. Like, oof, Beach, you've got yourself a contender there, I tell you what.
Yeah,
But
Oh, we'll come on to Thomas Beach in a minute.
oh my god, he has, okay.
You sent an essay. Next one comes from Ben Byers over on Blue Sky. Ben says Series 4 remains the absolute peak of the show. it's almost a little sad that there still hasn't been a series better than this, in my opinion. Even duds like The Doctor's Daughter, The Next Doctor, and Planet of the Dead have some quite decent qualities and barely detract from the whole package. 10 out of 10 Who.
Yeah,
Very nice.
no, I agree with that.
I would agree with that. I've said before, if I had a Mount Rushmore of Doctor Who series for me, I would have Series 1,
Yeah.
Series 4,
Mhm.
Series 5, and Series 10 as my, like, this is the peak of Doctor Who.
And by series 1, do you mean Christopher Eccleston or Shooty?
Oh, yeah. No, I don't mean Shooties, no. I mean Series 1, not Season 1. I don't mean Season 1 as in Hartnell. I mean of New Who, of not Disney Who.
Yes.
Who the hell do you think you are?
Because we have to now explain all of that, because there's now 3 new versions of season 1, and it's a little complicated.
Next one. Oh, actually, I realized because they did a funny thing where they quote tweeted it with it.
Oh, you talk about Queer Doctor, aren't you?
I always forgot James York, our friend, the friend of the show, James York. I almost forgot that they actually quote tweeted it. How do I see it?
Thank you very much.
Oh, wait, hang on a second. We have an extra one for Joshua Carpenter, another friend of the show, saying
Yeah.
Series 4 is a great cultural achievement and also a story of two halves. The first stories are pretty normal and varying in quality, but the great on-screen chemistry between David Tennant and Carpenter is fantastic, even carrying bad stories. Then the second half is an epic run of truly top-tier stories, even if the finale is quite bombastic and its typical moments I criticize in RTD finales. It's still an epic ride that earns some ignorance. The specials exist. The Water of Mars is great, but the rest, and it's just a face. Okay, interesting. Thank you very much. James says, The Queer Doctor. It's one of the best series of New Who, and it broke so much ground. It had Endgame before Endgame. Exactly.
Yeah. We covered that, and completely true.
Absolutely right. Okay, then on over to the email. First one comes from Jake Mancuso. Yeah, sorry, Jake. Says Jack, Robin, forgive me, this is a long one. It's really not that long. Don't worry, mate. I'm a bit basic, but I do believe Series 4 is one of the best seasons of Modern Who. Since the show's returned in 2005, one of its biggest themes has been the Time War, how this tragic event has changed the Doctor, but also affected how the Doctor interacts with their companions. The Doctor has lost everything, and most of their life became very centered around those who travel in the TARDIS. Series 4 of Doctor Who stands out for its emotional depth, thanks to Donald Noble and her grandfather, Wilfred Mott. Their relationship with the 10th Doctor helped finish shaping his journey, offering warmth, humour, and heartbreak. Donna is a unique companion who shares a purely platonic bond with the Doctor as compared to other RTD companions in prior series. Her sharp wit and compassion ground him, reminding him of the importance of ordinary people. Unlike past companions, Donna's arc proves that anyone can be extraordinary. Wilfred Mott adds further depth, serving as a symbol of hope and wisdom. His admiration of the Doctor highlights moments showing the Doctor's loneliness, while his role at the end of time solidifies the Doctor's selfless nature. He is the Doctor, and he saves people. Together, Donna and Will prevent the Doctor from becoming too detached, offering, in my opinion, some of the most touching moments in the show. From Donna begging the Doctor to save people in fires of Pompeii, to Will pleading with the Doctor to save their own life in the end of time. These companions' impact lingers long after their departure. So much that they both made a return in the recent 60th anniversary specials. Much love, your favourite fan art guy, Jake. Thank you so much, Jake.
Really.
And then, we got a whopper. We got a whopper.
Oh, wheel it in.
Right, Thomas.
Okay, so first of all, Mr. Beach, your essay was very greatly appreciated, but there is a reason we've had to put the cap in now. 500 words or 2 minutes for future, okay? Okay, cool. For anyone who wants to maybe speed things along, I suggest playing this in maybe 2 times speed or more comfortable, faster speed for yourselves. The end of this massive 12-minute long essay is about 2 hours 51:21. Round about there. That's when it finishes. Well, ish. It probably finishes a little bit after that because I've had to add this bit in. So I add an extra minute onto that, and you should be good.
Oh my goodness, Thomas. Here we go. So an awful lot of running
Okay.
series 4 retrospective. He has saved us the specials. He's only done series 4 for us, but still. He says, "Hello, Jack, Robin, and the inevitable star cameo appearance. Once again, thank you for inviting me to speak about the Indomitable series 4 and the specials. Unlike the bees, I won't be disappearing anytime soon. Ha ha ha. It's hard to recall 2008/9, honestly, for me. It was a time of great change. Finishing primary school and starting secondary school. Thomas, do you need to make me feel old? I felt
That's the entire episode tonight. It's just us feeling
Uh,
old.
come on. I felt entwined with the 10th Doctor as it felt all the strands of my life were coming together. The 10th Doctor's era ending as my primary school was ending felt poetic. It rhymes. Now, as much as I want to, I sadly can't go into the details I want to with every single story of Series 4. I can hear the sigh of relief from start all the way from here, in fact, get a few sighs of my own, in fact. So, in fact, I think I'll settle for a bit of a paragraph in each story. Yeah, that sounds good, right? Almsy! Constant time. Rewatching Series 4 for this podcast is... Wait, you rewatched it for the podcast, Thomas? Like, you didn't have to do that. Like, you could have just said...
That's
That's
dedication. Thank
dedication,
you.
buddy. Wow.
Yeah.
Rewatching Series 4 podcast has really hit me with a pang of nostalgia. Everything was simply much better paced, honestly, especially in this show where we're directly with Donna for pretty much the opening act of the story. An excellent slice of life point, of which I really appreciate now in my mid-20s. Having Donna sort of coasting in life, driven to find the Doctor again, was perfectly capsuled in her sat in that dining room chair, her mother whirling around her, life being just a blur. I also really appreciate the time it takes the Doctor and Donna to truly meet. The build-up is hilarious, and you just missed them. It's the kind of pacing that you just don't get in contemporary TV, especially in the streaming era. Though Church on Ruby Road has a similar approach, following a whole month of Ruby's life before meeting the Doctor, it just felt breathless. Perhaps it was the editing of the story. Pacing, I'm not sure. Partners in Crime was really brilliant opening, great character work, iconic performances, bombastic music, cute but actually horrifying concept of any aliens, a brilliant social commentary. 9 out of 10. Fires of Pompeii. Pseudo-historical stories are always my favourite. At the time of broadcast, I remember learning about Romans in history, so again, everything felt in sync. The story I didn't remember too much except for the parallel reveal with the disturbing stone rock woman and her voice. I also really enjoy the set design of the story, the streets, the homes. You can feel the effort despite what budgets they'd work under. I also adore the Doctor companion dynamic here, a moral crisis involving a historical tragedy, and they're always engaging, in my opinion, and this particular one helps flesh out Donna's character arc. Donna, having waited almost a year in search of the Doctor, has built up a level of hero worship, believing the Doctor has always saved the day. So to have this story in which the Doctor refuses to intervene and save doomed lives is effective, perfectly encapsulating with the ending, just save them. Fantastic story, incredible emotion, David's hand reaching out, marvellous. How dare you? 8.5. Planet of the Ood. Honestly, again, a really solid episode. It was awesome to see the Ood return. I adore having them fleshed out and seen as more than just a slave race, which is often seen in a science fiction. It also blends in the social commentary effectively, comparing contemporary slavery with where humanity could go in the future. Who do you think your clothes are made? Who do you think made your clothes? Sadly, still relevant today with contemporary consumerism, ethics with Shein, Temu, Amazon. But wait, no, Doctor Who is political or woke. Again, the set design is to be praised here. What's obviously another quarry or industry plant factory has been brilliantly set dressed with the snow and limited CGI, really helping with the world building. Highlighting David and Catherine's performance, a stand out in the Song of Captivity scene. I really enjoyed the telepathic elements of the Doctor ever since the TV movie, and using it here, really having an incredible heart-to-heart with Donna. It also builds on Donna's character arc and sort of brings her down to earth with the crushing realities of the Doctor's travel and morals ethics. 8.5 out of 10. Sontaran, Strasham, and the Poison Sky. I'm going to cheat here and review both episodes in one. Thank God. This episode is
we love you, buddy, but
yeah,
yeah.
we love you, Thomas. We do. Yeah, this episode made me incredibly excited when I was younger. Bringing Martha back, Unit, and Sontarans is actually a very Sontaran story, and what a great introduction. I actually like their. This is actually actually my very first Sontaran story. Again, it's late and I can't read. I actually like the redesign here with their militaristic body armor, but the potato heads are sacred. I also appreciate the story a lot on the revisit. The build-up and intrigue behind Atmos and the clever illegal alien subplot is hard to escape the perhaps problematic connotations of clone workers being played by Eastern European actors. The story is also incredibly poignant with themes of altruistic technology and nefarious influence behind it. Do get me started on the Rattigan/Musk comparisons. Seeing more of Donna's family is always amazing, and something I'll praise of RC1 was seeing the everyday people's reaction to alien incursions or events, especially the cliffhanger, seeing citizens choking the atmosphere in the car park, something that was sorely lacking in the Moffat Chibnall eras and RTD2. 8 out of 10. The Doctor's Daughter. Oh, this was a pleasant rewatch. I really enjoy the classic Who inspiration of the story, multiple companions, TARDIS out of control, sort of base under siege, one companion getting kidnapped, etc. I'm a sucker for world building and set design, and I love the post-apocalyptic vibes of the story, as well as the half-alien design. The gurgling mouthpiece was so cool to me. I also feel a tear as Martha's friendly half succumbs to death, similar to the horse never-ending story.
Mm-hmm.
I also can't stop giggling every time they mention the source because they keep pronouncing it sauce, but that's just me. 8 out of 10. Unicorn the Wasp. Again, another pretty good pseudo-historical episode despite the writer. Love the setting of this one, the 1920s Gilded Age and country house aesthetic. I do love the classic whodunit mystery story, but sadly, rewatching this, that's kind of all it is, but with just an alien twist at the end. Yes, it plays with the twists and tropes, but it feels like a retread of previous legacy historical figure episodes. Yes, the episode has moments of the character work, Harvey Wallbanger, but at the end of the day, it's a bit of fun as a filler episode. Most notable aspect is the sought after best performed character options figure that came in like 8 to 7 pieces of different action figures. 6 out of 10. Science in the Library and Forest of the Dead. What is there
You
to
got this
say?
one.
Simply a masterpiece. Love the setting, the world building, the music, pretty much everything in this story. Adorable river song here, the slow and quiet tragedy of her character just unfolding over time. You feel the hundreds of years flashing before her eyes as she says, "Please tell me you know who I am." Chills. We didn't know it then, but it was going to come back and haunt us. I've always said it on the pod, how I enjoy building block approach storytelling. Pieces full on top of each other. It's so engaging every time you watch a story like this. I adore the opening act of the Science of the Library, the build up, the tension. I also, again, praise the direction and thematic, incredible cinematography incredibly highly. I felt this was vital of a story having an almost invisible villain, and so the lighting of the cinematography had to be superb. For a lot of Whovians, this episode felt like a final test on Moffat as he'd been announced as the next showrunner after this series. Judging from the Perry episodes, of course, his previous work, it obvious Moffat had passed the flying colours. However, it's an interesting thing to look back on at this story and how much further we've gone. 10 out of 10. Midnight, off the bat. Incredibly bold move to have a story like this right after the roller coaster of the previous two-parter. As a kid, I got the sense these stories were getting darker as the series neared the end. The stakes were getting more dire, and our infallible hero was being pushed to the absolute fucking breaking point. Yeah, the story is anxiety personified, a nightmare scenario, and just brilliantly performed. David's on top form here, and it's just captivating. The supporting characters are also perfectly one note, but that works so well. The soundtrack is teeth-grindingly tense. The cinematography is claustrophobic as hell. I'm short of breath thinking about it. From what was a last-minute script is marvelous. Incredibly inspiring. Probably one of the episodes that poked me to become a writer. 10 out of 10. Not enough Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Ah.
There you go.
Mm.
Never living that one down. Never living that one down.
We will write that on our graves.
Turn left. Oh boy, the tension, the darkness train keeps rolling on. Things are totally ramping up as the series near the end, and this is an absolute showstopper for Donna. I love what if or alt history scenarios. Turn Left provides the ultimate taste in that, and it has a vibe of internet folk stories. Ooh, a cancelled Simpsons episode where Bart dies, you can see, but it's just so well done here. Having Donna be the linchpin for so much of the series without the audience realizing was rather spectacular. The lighting also helps so the lighting, sorry, helps so much. The atmosphere dour and moody as the world slowly dies out. While watching, I got a sense that Russell was inspired later on to write the later Torchwood specials in the vein of this story, especially something like Miracle Day. This story stays in the back of my mind like a splinter, the harrowing political commentary, the drama. I urge people who haven't seen Doctor Who to watch this episode for a lesson in drama or storytelling. 10 out of 10. Stolen Earth and Journey's End. Here we are, the series finale. Honestly, this still astounds me today. How everything weaved together. Sarah Jane Adventures, Torchwood, it all just works. The thrill of the titles was pretty much nearly everybody, and that mum included. It was great to have everything come together. The Shadow Proclamation, the bees, the Lost Moon of Poosh, all the previous missing planets and narrative character strands being brought back over the series felt so satisfying. Nervously he looks across the Legend of Ruby Road and the Legend of Ruby Sunday and Empire of Death. Yeah, fancy that. I adore the filmmaking between these parts. I hope one day we get a feature-length edition of this, sticking both parts together, or something in the eventful Blu-ray set. In the eventual Blu-ray set. The Daleks are probably at their best in the first part alone, genuinely horrifying and menacing here. Just that message broadcast is enough to send shivers. It's the true gravitas they should have always be held in. Finally, of course, Donna's departure was simply perfect, heartbreaking and devastating. I'll be honest, it's a fate worse than death, in my opinion. Probably the most effective companion departure of the show. Hot take, probably 10 out of 10. Although I want to talk about the specials, I think I've written enough, honestly. I don't even know if you're going to read all this. I did. I survived. I won. I'm the winner, Thomas. That's not a challenge. I want to thank you all for your time and for inviting me to write in and chat. Series 4 is very near and dear to my heart. Transitional series at a pivotal moment in my life. It's probably the series that truly inspired me to get into writing where I am today. Happy times and places. Thomas Mad Beach. Robin, talk for a bit.
Right. Thank you all for your incredible responses, and the fact that you've all shown such enthusiasm. Don't mind me, I'm just fetching a bottle of water and a fan. Oh, sorry, make that bottle of Lucasade for Jack here, who's come on, man. You can run this marathon. It's just a beach marathon. You can do this.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Wow. Thank you, everyone, as Robin said there. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Jake. Thank you, everybody. Robin, we've got so long here, so I'm not even going to pretend here. Thankfully, we're moving on to the last part. It's the fucking Cannon Buster. Play the fucking song. Go. Robin. So for anyone that doesn't know, the Cannon Buster. It's oh god, I'm broken. I swear to God, I don't even know what day
it
is
shows
now.
the enthusiasm of the season, mate.
Yeah.
It's lovely to
Oh,
have feedback. If you
okay.
want to break Jack more often, just send your messages to all of channels at an awful lot of fun. And you've got Twitter, Blue Sky, you name it.
The Cannon Buster is what I call the tasty morsel I give Rob at the end of the episode, where I just try and show him that the canon of Doctor Who is strange and confusing. We either have to accept it all or not, but it's weird and wacky. It's a send up to friend of the show, Davis, with his series Broke Canon. And Rob, I'm going to talk to you about exactly what everything the 10th Doctor does in his farewell tour. In his
Yeah.
reward.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so knowing that this would be his final regeneration, okay, because at this point he realizes that he's going to turn into the 11th Doctor, which would be his last regeneration because he's used up all of them. He used his state of grace to visit all his previous companions, and not just the 10th Doctors.
No.
He went back and visited every single companion.
Oh my God.
Right? He even talks about how he watched Joe Grant sail down the Yangtze River in a tea chest, which was in the Sarah Jane Adventures. He saved Martha and Mickey, obviously, as freelance alien fighters from Sontaran. He prevented Luke Smith from being run over by a car. He visited Norris Haim shortly before her death as well. You know, the cat lady from the New Earth stories. He
Oh,
watched with Heather and Wolfgang 4 years after they'd left him, which is from the comics or something. The Doctor, he also travelled to the Zakati Zugu bar, where he set up Jack with Alonzo. He visited Verity Newman, the granddaughter of Joan Redfern. Verity Newman, by the way, is a reference to Sidney Newman and Verity Lambert, who were, the creator of the Doctor, essentially. Basically.
yeah,
So,
that's a nice touch.
he did all that. He also, after years of searching for what became of Carla in a new timeline, so sorry, he was regenerating for years, holding back this regeneration for years. He also encountered Donna Noble's father, Jeff Noble, right?
Okay,
Borrowed
okay.
a quid off him as well, for the wedding gift. He also, after that, went back and visited George Lightfoot on the island of Minos, where he helped him fight the Gentleman of the Dice. Right?
What?
He did all
Okay.
that. He reflected on all his companions' lives and so proud for their knowledge and experiences from traveling with him and working the world back into place. To finish his reward, he went to the Powell estate and saw Jackie and Rose Tyler. So, yeah, he holds off regeneration for years, Robin.
Oh
For
my
years.
God. I feel like there needs to be now a cut where he's doing his big speech about him not wanting to go, how it's not his time, but it just keeps cutting to him like visiting people, just speaking to the camera, like riding on a roller coaster. It's like, it's not my time to go yet. It's just him
No,
enjoying
no,
life,
no,
watching the
mister. I'd
sunset.
love another cup of tea, thank you. Like,
Oh, so, Doctor, you're looking a bit under the weather. Am I? I couldn't tell. I've been doing this for years. Apparently, I'm dying, but hey, it's a good thing this regeneration cycle takes so
fuck
long.
you, Turlo. I'm staying for dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fucking
so
hell.
there's that for you, Robin.
Wow. Man does not want to die. Well, it is getting very late. Jack here needs his beauty sleep before he gets to be a grumpy
Oh,
boy,
fucking
but
hate.
I love you too, buddy.
What I will say is that I think this, with the end of this, and this being the end of the first era, this will mean that we can start looking at new Who episodes and reviewing them as a whole episode on their own, because so many of these we've just, we skimmed the surface with them. It'd be much better to do some deep dives of them in the future, which we will absolutely endeavor to do, much like other Doctor Who podcasts. But we've been doing retrospectives. We want to do that here and run through. We'll do them for all the eras, but we just want to do a bit of a one with this one. This has been so much fun, Robin. I'm very tired now. My brain is frazzed. I'm blaming Thomas Beach for that. I think it was but to be fair to him, I think it was the final nail in the coffin. I think I was like sort of coasting on gas there for a bit. So I'm just going to say
You've done
this has
great,
been our
mate.
coverage of Series 4 and the specials. It's been so much fun. I have been Jack.
I have been Robin. Good
And this has been an
night.
awful minute. Thank you very much. Bye for now.
Bye.